As she steps into the hall, all eyes turn to her. Whispers ripple through the crowd. They wonder what's with a villainess showing up at a ball. There are rumors she bullies her maids so much they run away in the middle of the night. The people pity the second prince, who is forced into an engagement by a woman like her. Erin Lysis. Known to the public as a notorious villainess, the eldest daughter of a marquis family who indulges in cruelty and luxury. But the truth was different. Erin trembled on the floor. The woman stood before her with a stick, calling her a useless child, and asked her, what did she think her father would say if he knew? She harshly grabbed her arm and hissed at her that a lady must always maintain a perfect posture and a noble expression, no matter the situation. She asked her to try that, and Erin's expression emptied in an instant. A satisfied smirk tugged at her lips. She let her arm go, saying at least now she's wearing a useful expression. Stupid and pathetic thing. Without anyone knowing, that went on in the secret since she was young, tormented by stepmother. Now she can't help but think, was it really because she was dull and pathetic? Just like that woman said? Calypso stopped her, pleading with her to tell the Marquis what the madam has been doing. Her maid Sarah also begged her to run away, but she couldn't protect anyone. The prince brings her a piece of cake, asking if she has eaten. He noticed she hadn't touched her food. Even though he must have hated being forced to marry her, her fiancé was always kind to her until the very end, but she couldn't even protect her fiancé. She blamed herself for his death. Because he was engaged to her, she believed everyone else who died, it was all her fault. They died because they stayed by her side. The voices in her head continued to blame her until she started believing the words, thinking of herself as truly worthless. A man drove the blade into her and let her know that Madame told him to give her this message. Not to worry, her family will be joining her soon. And that was how she was killed. To her surprise, that wasn't the end of her life. She was reborn as a modern-day South Korean, carrying the memories of Erin Lysis and given a second life. But her second life wasn't much different from her first. Her parents found her bothersome and mostly left her alone. And she, in turn, kept her distance from them. And so her life led to a third life after yet another reincarnation. She was reborn into a knight's family and lived as a genius swordsman and reached the rank of swordmaster. She still doesn't know why her life keeps repeating. All she knew was that no matter how she died, she was always reborn with her past lives' memories intact. But this time was different. As the man struggles against the massive bear, she bursts into the fray and cuts the beast down with a single slash. Lady Erin, he calls out in shock. She gives him a mere glance. There are still stragglers left, so help the other knights, she says flatly. Erin Lysis, the foolish girl who couldn't protect anyone, who was tormented by her stepmother and murdered in her first life, has now returned with the memories of a sword master. She doesn't know why she has returned as Erin Lysis, but this time, she will never live that life again. Athens Academy. The only academy in the empire, attended not only by talented commoners and nobles, but also by royalty from other nations, and even the imperial family. A truly elite institution. And to this place, Erin Lysis has arrived. She stands before the academy, and only now, staring at its familiar form, it's finally sinking in that she has returned. A few days ago, she returned to the past. At first, she didn't realize she had returned as Erin Lysis. She watched in shock as Sarah told her to hide behind her. She would protect her. She couldn't believe Sarai is standing in front of her. She knows for certain she died. Her shock only grew when she realized she just called her Lady Erin. Then, based on the situation around her and her past experience with reincarnation, she was able to grasp that something strange had happened to her once again. She had returned as the 20-year-old Erin Lysis. As always, people start talking about her. The way her carriage is so extravagant, and with the dress she is wearing, one would think she is going to a ball. They also heard she transferred to the night division to follow the second prince. One of the girls says she really doesn't want to be in the same class as her. Sarah, looking concerned, asks her if she is really going to be all right. People have always disliked her, but the academy students around this time despise her even more. The first reason is because she, who knows nothing about the sword, transferred to the night division, and the second is because she is engaged to the second prince of the empire, Ferdindo. It wasn't her choice, but everyone believes the engagement only happened because she insisted on it. People believe in absurd rumors like she threatened to kill herself if they didn't let her get engaged to the second prince, or that she was transferred to the night division just to be by his side. They also believe the biggest victim in all this is Lady Ashieli, having her lover stolen by a villainess, the likes of which they have never seen. People believe she disdained the honor of a knight, shattered the bond between two lovers, and seized the title of the second prince's fiancé, so of course they would hate her. She turns to Sarah and tells her not to worry about her. She should return to Marquise's estate now. Sarah asks, Is she sure she will be all right on her own? She holds on to Sarah's hands and assures her she's fine. Then she walks away without a glance. The rumors people believe about her were all fabricated by her stepbrother. But she won't reveal this truth to anyone. A memory strikes Sarah, injured, pleading with her to run. Because she already knows what happens when she speaks up. That is why he has to do this all on her own. This is her burden to bear. Later, in her room, she changes into her academy's uniform and watches her reflection in the mirror. It has been a while. Her gaze then lands on her bandaged hand. Her stepmother whipped her right up until the moment she left for the academy. The faint aches she feels all over the body are the proof. It must be the handiwork of Corellia, her stepmother. Now she wonders why did she beat her so viciously, especially since she was going to kill her anyway. Erin remembers the man delivering her message. Madam said not to worry, her family would be joining her soon. Her last words bother her, and with good reason. Their family has a long and storied history of producing knights for the Empire. Her father never became a swordmaster, but he was a high-ranking knight, and her younger brother, Karen, was leading swordsmanship to carry on the family legacy. Yet before she died, that same family was driven to the brink of ruin. Driven. All because of a single person. She didn't understand it back then, but now she thinks she does. There must have been someone backing her. But who? Suddenly, the door swings open, and for a moment she wonders if, back then too, someone had come to see her. Then it hits her. It was Karen, her younger brother. He barges in, voice sharp. Is she out of her mind? What is she thinking? She can barely walk without needing a carriage. How is she going to handle training? She walks past him without a glance, thinking his temper hasn't changed a bit. They had this exact argument back then too. She halts when his voice follows her, asking if she really has to transfer to the night division. Everyone already hates her. His hand closes around her arm, yanking her back, as he asks, does she really have to make it worse by joining the night division? Karen had every right to be angry. He was also a student in the swordsmanship department who dreamed of becoming a knight. He must have felt insulted by her past. So at that moment, when he confessed he was so embarrassed, he must have been angry. Even now, it is the same. A bitter smile plays on her lips as the question haunts her. How did they end up like this? They were pretty close when they were kids. She suddenly says he used to follow her around everywhere. He sighs and replies he doesn't know what she's thinking, but she cannot meet the second prince, no matter how hard she tries. The second prince, she asks? He replies yes. The second prince is in the advanced class, and she is in the beginners. How could they meet if they are in different classes? And everyone is gathered today for the swordsmanship evaluation, but that is just for today, so she should give up and go back to her original class. He suddenly grabs her injured hand, and she shoves him back with force. He stares at her in shock, demanding to know why she didn't say she was hurt. Without meeting his eyes, she opens the door and tells him that if he's done talking, he can leave, she has class. The swordsmanship department of Athens Academy. People called this place the Empire's last stronghold. It's a place that trains knights to defend the front line from the ever-growing monsters. In fact, the advanced class also gets dispatched to subjugate monsters. Ferdin was dispatched on a mission by order of the Emperor, and he never, ever returned. An old memory of him caring for her flashes through her mind, and she stares at him with wide eyes. He's alive. Meanwhile, Derek leans casually against the wall, thinking that, regardless of his own opinions, Duke Lysus's demand is just ridiculous. Duke Lysus. He is the head of the Lysus family, one of the 5 families protecting the front lines of the monster blockade. Although he never became a swordmaster, his abilities from protecting the front lines for so long are worthy of high praise. Even so, he recently made a big mistake. It wasn't enough to use his prestige to get his daughter into the swordsmanship department. He even pushed for an engagement with the second prince of the Empire. He glances at the prince, thinking how the man engaged to that villainess can look so carefree. Calling out to him, he says it's truly unbelievable. Hadn't he heard the Duchess's voice breaking as she spoke? The woman had wept to save her daughter, even claiming she would take her own life if she couldn't secure an engagement to Prince Ferdinand. They say Aaron Lysus used blackmailing. Derek warns the prince that woman has only ever been a hindrance to his path and will continue to be, also claiming that her love for him is all bullshit. She just wants the title of the second prince fiancé. At last, Derek admits he doesn't want to see him die, no matter how brilliant he is. As long as the emperor favors the first prince, the succession to the throne may never come to him. He must build his own strength even more than now. What they need is a knight who can be a source of strength right now. Although Caron's talent is excellent, Duke Ashili is the strongest world master in the Empire. Once again, he starts, the daughter of Ashili, but his words trail off as he notices the prince's gaze drifting somewhere else entirely. Irritation flares and he snaps he is talking. Why does he keep getting distracted? He follows the prince's line of sight, ready to bark out another complaint, only for the words to die in his throat when he sees Aaron. He stills, and his eyes narrow, hot with anger. The prince suddenly speaks. He doesn't believe in rumors, he says, stepping toward her with deliberate calm. His eyes never leave hers. He believes only in what he sees for himself. A faint smile curves his lips as he adds that it has been a while, this being the first time they've met since the engagement. Her heart stirs. Even after living 3 lives, he's the one she could never forget. What should she say to him? No. Is she even allowed to speak to him? The voice in her head rises again, accusing her of killing the prince. A tremor ripples through her, but she forces her steps forward, choosing to walk away without a single word. Meanwhile, the swordsmanship students have gathered together. A man facing them welcomes them to the training grounds for their swordsmanship evaluation. He introduces himself as Edward Flown, the instructor in charge of the beginning class in swordsmanship. As they have been told on the first day of the term, they usually begin with a swordsmanship evaluation. He declares this is the only opportunity for the beginner class to watch the swordsmanship of the advanced class, so they should observe carefully. After explaining the main instructions, they will immediately begin the swordsmanship evaluation. Erin recalls in her first life, she couldn't even lift the sword. It was pathetic, but she had no choice but to keep trying, because she wanted to learn swordsmanship no matter what. Ever since she was little, she wanted to learn swordsmanship, but her stepmother told her, ladies, do not learn things like swordsmanship. She was blocked at every turn. So when she transferred to the swordsmanship department, she was overjoyed. Though that joy didn't last long, she suddenly says, does he think glaring like that will change anything? Because this narrow-minded guy relentlessly tormented her. Philip warns her not to speak his name so casually, reminding her, even if there are regulations, he is royalty of the kingdom of Edwin, and she is a noble of the empire. Erin knows he really hates having his name called by her. The first emperor of Lexi established a rule within the academy that aside from royalty, one's social status should not be considered. In other words, it meant that royalty and commoners could speak comfortably without issue. Philip snarls, more importantly, want him to tell her what is going to happen to her from here on? He also lets her know how much disgrace she will suffer for someone who cannot even be a proper knight. She states even if he says that she's not afraid. Edward then says that is enough explanation. From here on, they will begin the swordsmanship evaluation. He instructs Erin to step forward and show her sword form. Before moving, she tells Philip to watch from there and decide for himself whether she's truly a knight or not. She walks over to the sword rack and grips one by the hilt. Even that small effort sends a tremor through her arms. Her current condition makes simply lifting it a struggle. From somewhere nearby, a student snickers. Look at those shaking hands. She realizes her hands are going to blister again. Every person has mana in their lower abdomen. Of course she has mana too, about the same amount as an ordinary person. The difference between ordinary people and her is that she has lived as a sword master before, so she knows how to wield mana. Philip watches in shock as he realizes the trembling stopped. A long time ago, father called Karen and her over to tell them about their family's lineage. He told them in their family, there is a legacy that has been passed down for generations. Every 2 or 3 generations, a descendant is born with the qualities of a master. He pointed out he never managed to become a sword master, which meant one of them would possess the talent. Her father never did become a sword master. Karen didn't become a sword master either, so the one chosen by the sword is her. Meanwhile, Karen recalls her cold dismissal. He mutters, damn it, he worries about her, and she just throws him out. And what the hell did she even do to hurt her hand? He heard she ran into a pack of monsters on the way here, and wonders if she got hurt there. His thoughts drift. By now the swordsmanship evaluation should be over. His head snaps around when nearby chatter catches his attention. They're talking about Aaron Lysis. One man mentions he heard from the advanced class that they've just finished their evaluation. In an instant, he seizes the man by the arm. A slow smirk curves his lips as he says, that story, let him hear it too. Edward commends everyone for their hard work in completing the swordsmanship evaluations, then dismisses them for class. Aaron turns to leave, but Philip's voice suddenly rings out, calling her name. Before she can react, he declares that he owes her a sincere apology. Her head snaps toward him in shock. She tells him to lift his head and demands to know what's gotten into him. Unfazed, he says he's not ashamed to bow to her, adding that the way she wielded her blade was more knightly than anyone else, and the one who failed to act like a true knight was him. He let petty prejudice cloud his judgment. He declares he finally realized just how meaningless rumors are. He then requests her to accept his apology. He would like for them to get along from here on out. She is a bit taken aback, but she supposes it makes sense. Things have changed from how he used to be. Even the way some of the other students looked at her now, it is different from before, which means perhaps Ferdinando's fate will change as well. Shaking his hand, she tells him she accepts his apology. She suddenly turns and walks away. Crossing the courtyard to Ferdinand, She tells him she'd like to speak with him alone. Later, in a quieter, more secluded spot, she thanks him for making the time. Her gaze drops as she admits the reason she asked to see him is because Buddy cuts her off, and she looks up, startled, when he says he has all the time she needs. Then with a gentleness that catches her off guard, he takes her injured hand in his and says when they are done talking, she really should head to the infirmary. Ferdin is kind to everyone, fair to all, and blessed with a gentle, compassionate nature. That must be why he treats her so well too. Even though he must resent being forced into an engagement with her, she asks him if he has received orders from the Emperor to subjugate the monsters. Looking surprised, he asks how did she know? Did she hear it from Caron? She admits she also knows her name is listed on the subjugation team roster. The reason she called him here today was to ask him not to do anything for her sake. Meanwhile, in Ferdin office, Derek asks the others if they all got the roster too, the monster subjugation list. He states, as they all know, the monster subjugation is one of the regular events held by the Academy. The roster is usually chosen from the top 5 in each class of the swordsmanship and magic faculties, and the team is formed alongside senior knights with field experience. His voice then drops as he adds, and for this subjugation, they have been chosen, along with Ferdin and himself. Amon Hedor, swordsmanship faculty, advanced class. Lilia, magic faculty, advanced class. Eamon, looking bored, remarks regardless of the selection, why is he talking like he's the leader instead of Ferdin? Derek blurts out, it is not like that. He was just making the announcement before Ferdin arrived. Eamon mutters still, his devotion to his lord is impressive. Meanwhile, Caron sits there, lost in thought. He recalls the earlier conversation, where the man claims he did not hear all the details himself, but his sister has executed the Lysis-style sword form flawlessly. He thinks that is impossible. She has never formally learned swordsmanship. How could she master their family's form? He has caught her sneaking peeks at his training and imitating in secret before, but she stopped doing that ages ago. Amon speaks up abruptly, saying there was an unexpected name on this list, Aaron Lysis. He casually says their father will be pleased siblings side by side, taking part in such a prestigious monster subjugation. Karen speaks up, saying his sister's participation is absurd, and that she only transferred into the swordsmanship faculty recently, and these subjugations are reserved for top scorers. He then mentions he was in class today. What did he think of her? Derek replies he should have been there himself. Clearing his throat, he admits he never thought he would say this, but her sword form was flawless. Angry Karen throws in, no matter how good she was, he absolutely refuses to take his sister on a monster's subjugation. Crossed arm, Derek eyes him suspiciously, thinking what is with him all of a sudden. They never seemed that way before. Lilia lets out a sudden, bitter laugh. What a touching display of sibling affection. She says she had a brother like that once, but she will never see him again. Because of him. He tells her, that is enough. And that rumor, but she cuts him off, repeating, a rumor. Is he telling her that the story about his sister killing his brother is just a rumor? If it were really a rumor, then why does everyone believe it to be true? She then tells him she doesn't care if his sister goes on the monster hunt or not, but if she comes with them, he shouldn't expect any cooperation from her. She lets him know it takes a great deal of mental effort to make sure her magic doesn't accidentally hurt her. His clenched hand quivers, yet he says nothing. Just then, Ferdin walks in. Derek remarks that he came quicker than expected, but Ferdin doesn't answer. He simply crosses the room and sinks into the sofa. Derek's brow furrows, suspecting Aaron must have been causing trouble. What did she say, he asks. Ferdin exhales slowly before saying it looks like Aaron will be joining this monster hunt. Meanwhile, Aaron settles into her bed. She hasn't done much today, yet the fatigue pulls at her all the same. In her past life, and in this one, it is a foregone conclusion that Aaron will participate in the monster hunt, because it is an imperial decree. In his past life, Ferdin protested to the Emperor, but he was ignored. In the end, the hunting party, including her, set off, and there Karen lost an arm, and Ferdin lost his former lover, Princess Ashili, because he chose to save her over Princess Ashili. Because of that, Ferdin had to face the wrath of Duke Ashili, and Ferdin's position began to weaken in earnest. Of course, in this life these things will never happen. The hunting party will depart 1 month from now. Until then, she should increase her stamina and mana core as much as possible. Just then, the door swings open and Karen strides in, anger written across his face. He starts to speak, but his eyes catch on her bleeding hand. His jaw tightens, and he grits out the questions he wants to hurl. Why are her hands worse than before? Has she lost her mind? Using the family sword technique during the swordsmanship evaluation when she's supposed to be going on a monster hunt? But what comes out instead is, he heard she is participating in the monster hunt. Do she even know what that means? It means she could die. She answers evenly that she knows, but it's an imperial decree, there's nothing Ferdin can do to stop it. She turns to him and calmly states she is going to go. He asks how can she be so calm about this? Does she not know what a monster hunt means? Or does she have no sense of reality? He also warns her Corellia is aiming for her to get revenge for her brother. Not only that, she will be with people who don't think highly of her. And she still says she will go. She quietly says yeah, and he looks taken aback. 1 month later, the day the monster hunting party departs. Corellia's older brother was her former attendant, but it was long before he died. And at the sight of her brother's cold body, an enraged Corellia devoted herself to magic training, only to avenge her brother. No matter how Derek thinks about it, this combination is just too strange. It is weird enough that those two seem close, and he cannot ignore Lilia's silence either, because he knows exactly what that smell of hers means. Right before they left earlier, he thought something was about to happen. Thankfully, Lilia stepped back at the last moment. And on top of that, Lady Ashili is coming along too. This is turning into some kind of soap opera. He suddenly speaks up, saying this monster subjugation mission isn't going to be easy in more ways than one. Karen replies, he has been concerned about it too. Derek then calls out to Ferdine and states when the subjugation is over, he really needs to seriously reconsider his engagement. They who are loyal to him will, once he graduates from the academy, officially become his knights. When that time comes, the first prince will have built up his own forces to oppose him, and the prince has His Majesty the Emperor behind him. From the start, he will be at a disadvantage, and if he keeps Aaron by her side, he will be forced to spend all his time preventing internal division rather than fighting. But Ferdin then asks him, has he ever actually seen Aaron cause trouble? He starts to say of course, but then it hits him. All he's ever heard about her are rumors, something he has never seen by his eyes. He quietly says no, he has never seen it himself. The man shouts that there's a clearing ahead, they'll make camp there for the night. The sun dips behind the mountain, and she pauses to watch it while Ferdin watches her saying, if her so-called past turned out to be a lie, who would compensate for that? Derek looks away, muttering that it's too much of a leap and that he probably shouldn't say things like that in front of Lilia. Later, her brother notices her by the fire, cooking of all things. The sight alone surprises him. Someone who's only ever had ladies' etiquette lessons shouldn't know her way around a pot. She hands him a bowl, and he takes a bite, only to find it's actually delicious. He stares at her, baffled. He doesn't understand her at all anymore. His sister from his childhood, who used to be like a flower, like no one hates flowers, he never once thought he would come to dislike her. Until a few years ago, before they grew apart, he clung to her arm, whining if she was going to meet her new stepmother, and whether they had already gotten close. He complained that he wanted her time too. She suddenly yanked her hand away, muttered a quick sorry, and said she was a bit late. After that, he kept trying to get closer to her, but he could never seem to close the distance. One day, her stepmother finds him crying under the blanket, listening as he confesses that his sister has changed so much he can't even understand why, and that even the servants have started speaking badly of her. She gently tells him it seems Aaron has had a change of heart, so perhaps he should keep his distance until she returns to her old self, assuring him she'll cherish Aaron in the meantime. Now, as they eat together, he asks how life is in the swordsmanship faculty. She says it's fine. He asks if it's hard to keep up with the classes. She says not really. Then, without warning, she smiles, and when he asks why, she simply says no reason, though she admits she was just thinking about how long it's been since they sat like this, and how strange it feels to hear him call her sister. He's stunned at first, but then grits his teeth, and snaps that it's no big deal, he's just calling her what she is, a sister. Footsteps sound and Amon appears, remarking guess the food is going down all right, huh? Laughing so casually in front of the one who tried to kill Lilia, it's hard to tell if he's oblivious or if he simply doesn't care. Karen shoots to his feet, warning Amon not to pick a fight, and reminding him of the saying that even a dog shouldn't be disturbed while eating, so is he worse than a dog. Amon's eyes narrow and he growls that it's enough, even for him, drawing his sword with a cold gleam. But before the tension can snap, the prince steps in beside him and orders him to stop. Amon turns to him in disbelief, demanding if Ferdine is seriously taking that woman's side right now. Aaron's gut twists. This isn't good. Every gaze is on them, and if Ferdin is seen openly defending her, it'll only make her position harder. Rising from her seat, she cuts in, her tone cool as she says she's heard he was a genius swordsman. Was that just an empty rumor, given all she's seen from him is a sharp tongue? Amon's voice is low and dangerous as he asks if she has a death wish. If that is what she wants, he can kill her right now. Suddenly someone says that is not allowed. All eyes shift to a girl in a white dress, standing there with an ethereal calm, a being who is loved by everyone, frequently sick due to overflowing divine power, yet still never absent from subjugating monsters even with such a body. Fredden's former lover, the saintess of the Lexia Empire, Lady Ashili. Derek asks her, why did she come out since such a cold weather? She replies she came out because it seemed there was some commotion. She then greets Aaron, saying they have passed by each other a few times but this is their first real meeting. Aaron says it is a pleasure to meet her for the first time. The lady did not attend the engagement ceremony, and she never greeted Lady Ashili like this in her past life either. Before the monsters appeared, she never left her carriage, and she died early. Aaron looks up to find her staring and staring far too much, certain she must still be displeased that Aaron is now engaged to her former lover. But then, to her shock, the woman suddenly pulls her closer and remarks that she is an interesting person. Her eyes seem to sparkle. Then she turns to Amon and, on second thought, declares a duel would be fine, though she will be the only one observing. She looks back at Aaron, asking if that is acceptable, and Aaron wonders if she intends to take revenge through Amon, before quietly replying that if it is her wish, she has no objection. The woman beams, announcing they should go now, while the others exchange surprised looks. And later, as Aaron and Amon stand facing each other, Ashili states they will keep the duel modest. The rule will be to fight fair and square, while minimizing injury. They came here to subjugate monsters, not people after all. She then tells them to begin. Amon lifts his sword, his stance flawless, she thinks, as expected of a genius swordsman. His stance is clean and without excess. Today she crosses swords with him, but in her previous life, Amon was a knight ordered by Ferdinand to protect her. Due to his foul mouth and lazy nature, he never did become a swordmaster in the end. But he was someone who knew what chivalry meant. After Ferdinand died and he no longer had to protect her, he still upheld that order until the moment of his own death. But then she thinks, no matter how much she may owe him, that is that, and this is this. She strikes without warning, her blade flashing toward him. His eyes widen. She's fast, and the force pushes him back. A sudden kick slams into his back, sending him to the ground. But he scrambles up, breathless, muttering crazy. What is this? He got hit by Aaron Lysis? By that total novice? She stands over him, gaze cool, remarking that he still hasn't come to his senses, then smiles, promising he will if she keeps hitting him. His astonishment barely registers before her next blow lands. Ashili turns to her with a smile and says the duel is over. Aaron wonders, wasn't she hoping to take revenge through Amon? But her demeanor says it is as if she anticipated this outcome. Amon asks her how did she do it. She has only recently taken up the sword. He remembers clearly at that party, her hands looked as though she had never held a blade, nor even a needle. Immaculate, he yells. She knows nothing of swordsmanship, nor of a knight's honor. So how could she possess such skill? Her senses sharpen in an instant, and she rushes toward him without warning. He startles, demanding to know what she's doing. She pushes him aside before tearing through the monster in front of them. A few more linger in the distance, and he curses under his breath. They begin to run, but Ashili's breath falters, and a monster appears beside her, only for Aaron to cut it down in one swift motion. Amon declares she's having a seizure, and Aaron quickly realizes there are too many monsters, and she can't move fast while carrying her. Amon calls out, leading them to a hiding spot where they watch from the shadows as the monsters search. It's not completely safe, but at least they can catch their breath. Amon thinks the monsters are appearing earlier than expected, most of them mid-tier or higher, and wonders if it's connected to her return to the past. He suddenly asks to see her back, making her instantly cover herself. Flustered, he clarifies he meant the wound she got earlier saving him, and offers to apply medicine since it's in a hard-to-reach spot. As he treats her injury, she asks why Lady Ashili suddenly had a seizure. He replies, her body holds a great deal of divine power, so it happens often. This time, he suspects the monster's foul energy may have triggered it. She simply says she sees, before thinking this situation is uncomfortable. He quietly says that when he was a child, and she thinks how strange it is for him to share his story so suddenly. He goes on, telling her that once his father took him into the underground prison, perhaps it was to instill a sense of discipline in his lazy son. Or perhaps he wished to impart a deeper lesson, to show him the weight of committing a crime. He's not sure. But he still remembers the prisoner he saw that day. He was hung awkwardly against the wall like a sack of grain and tortured. His body was covered in old scars, much like her back. Her eyes widen in surprise. He demands to know who could have done this. What kind of fool dares to lay a hand on someone from the Marquis household? He snaps, this is outrageous. But she simply tells him to take Lady Ashili and return at once. Astonished, he blurts, what? She tells him her breathing has grown rapidly, and she thinks her condition is worsening. He snaps, what does she take him for? If anyone is running, it should be her running with the lady. She screams she is begging him, then her voice drops to a quieter, pleading tone as she urges him to just go. She can't run as fast as him, so he has to go ahead and call for help. Meanwhile, they've already made it out. Ferdinand scans the surroundings, sensing something is off. He still hears the distant shrieks of monsters, but they never come closer beyond a certain point. He wonders if they're even monsters at all. Then he spots Amon stumbling toward them, carrying the fainted Ashili in his arms. He asks what happened. Did he encounter them? And says the ground even shook. Suddenly his eyes snap wide with alarm, and he quickly asks, why are there only the two of them? Eamon explains they split up along the way, and that Aaron volunteered to act as a bait. Swing, slash, stab, kill. This is the act she repeated to the point of exhaustion in her third life. In that world, overflowing with monsters, laws and order had long since vanished, so killing hordes of monsters was not a choice, but it was a necessity. In that life, she had glimpsed the pinnacle of the sword, the master called Sword Master. If she had realized her talent earlier in her first life, could she have kept anyone from dying? Back then, she couldn't protect them, but this time, she vows to protect them. Karan snaps. What does he mean his sister became bait? He grabs Amon by the collar, his voice harsh and accusing as he warns him not to tell him he abandoned her just to save himself. And he still calls himself a knight? Suddenly Lilia says she has to go save her. Aaron Lysis, acting as a bait alone for a horde of monsters? To her, that sounds like she is saying she wants to die. She suddenly looks up, eyes wild, declaring that woman must not die so easily. Karen asks, is that why she's saying she wants to save her? He steps threateningly toward Lilia. Ferdinand steps in to stop Caron, blocking his path. Then, turning his icy glare toward Lilia, he warns her sharply to watch her words. He tells Karen to calm down, reminding him that rescuing Aaron is the priority. He grits his teeth as Karen warns Eamon that if anything happens to his sister, he won't forgive him. Meanwhile, on another forest path, Aaron moves slowly, her arm injured, but her tracks erased. She fought off the monsters, using sword energy only a true sword master could wield, ensuring they will never believe she's dead. If she circles back this way, she can return to the knight's camp. But then she hesitates, doubt creeping in. Can she really go back? Her thoughts drift to Calypse, Lilia's older brother. He was one of the people she could never forget, no matter how many lives passed, and the first to notice her stepmother's vile nature. He had insisted she must tell Marquis what Madame has done, and if it was too difficult alone, he also promised to be there for her. However, there was a conflict within her as she wondered, what if, just as her stepmother always said, her father truly thought she was useless? And what if nothing changes? But he had reminded her that the Marquis loved her. He was the one who planted a small seed of courage in her and her only friend. But then her stepmother showed her his lifeless body. She sank to her knees, overwhelmed by guilt. She should have lied to him. It wasn't her mother who hurt her, but the weight of it was too much to bear, so she had confided in him instead. In that moment, all she could do was scream her anguish aloud beside his cold, still form. Calypso's cold body was sent home, and thanks to her stepmother's lies, it was said that she had killed him. It said that her reputation was already in ruins by then, and no one wanted to know the truth. Rain drenches her as she stands cluelessly, a fleeting thought asking why she returned. Why did she return to this point in time? If she had gone back further, she never would have told Calypso. Still, unlike before, Lady Ashili survived this time. Then perhaps the future will change as well. Maybe if she doesn't return and is thought to have died in the village, a better future might unfold. If she is gone, everyone can be happy. But then she notices someone approaching. Ferdinand, his eyes wide with shock, as he, at the same time, at the Marquisate of Lysis. Corellia stands by the window, casually sipping her drink. A few days later, Marquis Lysis' residence. As if to completely block off any other intruder from the enemy side, knights were stationed around the residence. It was truly a great display of power. All of this was due to the power he had built up on the front line. It was also a testament of his distinguished position within the empire. Instead, there was someone else who benefited from his power, wealth, honor, and lived like a queen in the Marquis' residence, Marchioness Corellia Lysis. She casually tells a man it has already been more than a decade since she had her second marriage with Marquis Lysis. High-quality dresses and servants who come at her service when she rings the bell. She thinks she has become too attached to the role of Marchioness that she might feel a bit regretful if she were to return to her original role. She asks Raymond if he wants to return to where he came from. She also admits she is hiding any sign of swordsmanships with black magic, since it doesn't really suit the role of Marchioness. A few decades ago, she stood before His Majesty the Emperor, who told her he heard of her great talent, a great knight who is stronger than Marquis Lysis. He called her here because she needed her strength. There are not many sword masters in this empire, only 3 of them. There are no more than 10 people across the entire continent. He told her even if he reigned at the top of the empire, he couldn't do anything as he pleased with these 3, as he was in a difficult situation where he couldn't act as he wished. But he wasn't gonna just wait and see. He wanted her help to stop them from running wild. That was a long time ago. His Majesty has long wanted to acquire the Marquisate of Lysis, who has long produced swordmasters, so she has been hiding her identity here for a long time. And the Marquis State's greatest legacy has been torn apart and ruined by its young buds. Everything went so smoothly since the Marquis was stranded at the front line and could hardly return home. However, she received the letter that states the subjugation party from Athens Academy, who were dispatched for monster subjugation, managed to finish the subjugation with the help of a passing swordmaster, and all members returned safely. She narrows her eyes, questioning if he's really telling her that her plans were ruined by a passing swordmaster. In a burst of anger, she hurls a vase across the floor. The loud crash draws a maid rushing in. Bask, who says she heard a noise. Her hand slipped, she replies calmly, instructing the maid to clean it up. Once the floor is cleared, the maid retreats, and her demeanor instantly hardens into cold composure. She asks Raymond, does that make sense? He admits that the message they received yesterday is indeed strange. The fact that a swordmaster, who are not many in this continent to begin with, happened to pass by that forest, she exclaims. Princess Ashili should have been dead in this subjugation. That was how Duke Ashili was going to abandon Ferdin Lexus. In accordance with this arrangement, she went through the trouble to force Aaron to get engaged with the second prince and put her in the swordsmanship faculty. And it gets ruined by a passing swordmaster? She raises her hand, ready to strike, but Raymond catches it effortlessly, his tone calm as he warns she'd be in trouble if she smashes it. Her eyes flash with anger as she glares at him, but he remains unshaken. He says at Athens Academy, rumors have spread that Aaron wields a sword. He needs to confirm whether what Reckon claimed is true. Corellia still remembers the first day she met her. Smiling, she asked her if she could call her mom from now on. She wanted to tell her she wasn't her mother. Eyes blinking with innocence, a flower-like figure, a great sample of one who was born from a good family. Just like how much she wanted to take her, that child had the skill of a swordmaster. She knew she had to destroy her. She knew the child's muscles were needed for a swordmaster, and she already had talent beyond Marquis Lysis. Calypso had warned her not to do this to Aaron, reminding her that God would not forgive such deeds. But all she could think was that even a mere servant dared to lecture her. To her, a servant was nothing more than a background figure, insignificant and dispensable, and Aaron had been completely broken from that day onward. In the end, killing him hadn't seemed like such a bad choice. She tells Raymond there is not much left to do now that His Majesty has begun to move. The plan cannot go wrong from here on. She instructs him to go to Athens Academy to check if she really uses the sword, and that even if she were to learn swordsmanship with broken bones, at best, she would still maintain the level of a senior knight. But if it is true that she wields the sword, wouldn't it be okay if her wrist is broken due to some accident? At the same time, in Aaron's room, she slowly opens her eyes. Karen rises quickly and hurries to her side. He asks, is she okay? They're comentous. She sits up, still dazed, and asks, where is she? He replies her room at the academy. She realizes she must have been unconscious for quite some time and notices her clothes have been changed. Who could have done this? They must have seen her scars. She turns to her brother, whose whole body shakes with tension, and then he snaps. Is she out of her mind? What was she thinking? How could she believe he is strong enough to act as bait? Her head spins at his words, and he quickly softens, struggling to continue. He is not mad, it's just. His voice trails off. Judging by his reaction, she doesn't think he was the one who changed her clothes. If he heard, he would have asked about these cars first. She notices his arm is still intact, and a wave of relief washes over her. Thankfully, it hadn't come to that. Without thinking, she tugs gently on his arm, smiling up at him. His eyes glisten with unshed tears as he yanks his arm away, voice tight as he asks why would she do something that could have gotten her killed, and tells her no, never do that again, understand? She watches in surprise, noticing what seems like tears welling in his eyes, but quickly shakes it off, convincing herself it must be her imagination. As she starts to sit up, he tells her to lie down a little longer. She says she is thirsty. He says he'll get her some water, already moving. When he returns, he comments that it's a good time to wake up while Ferdin isn't here. He mutters under his breath about how annoying Ferdin can be, always dropping by while she's asleep. She takes the glass from him, scolding him not to joke, but he insists he isn't joking. The thought of Ferdin visiting her room seems impossible, and for good reason. She recalls the day she fell, and he caught her, telling her to wake up. She had pleaded with him then, begging him not to be like that, not to be so kind. That's what she said to him. There's no way he would come to her room after hearing that. Her room. Kiran then says he's glad the academy granted permission for the visit. She asks permission for whose visit? Her blood runs cold when he replies Lord Raymond's. He adds mother must have been very worried about her. She requested that the academy allow Lord Raymond to be assigned as her escort. He casually asks, isn't that great? She always looked up to Lord Raymond, didn't she? Meanwhile, in the Central Hall conference room. Lately, it has just been one strange thing after another. During the monster subjugation, they thought it was a swarm of low-level monsters, but it turned out to be a swarm of mid-level ones. Then a sword master appeared out of nowhere and took care of them. And whatever happened with Aaron Lysis there has made Eamon act strangely too. But the strangest of all is Ferdinand. He visits Aaron's sickbed every single day, and Ferdinand, who always presented a perfect image, has been caught staring blankly outside quite often. Derek thinks the report on the monster subjugation to His Majesty the Emperor cannot be relayed any further. Ferdinand is the one who knows best that he will be the one to suffer it. He wonders, what on earth is he thinking? His eyes close, and he's back in that moment, holding Aaron gently in his arms, desperate as he pleads with her to wake up. Her words echo in his mind, telling him not to be so kind, to hate her like everyone else does. He pauses, brow furrowing in confusion, wondering why she had brought that up so suddenly. Why had she told him to hate her? A swirl of questions floods his mind. Does she hate him too? Is that the reason she keeps him at a distance, refusing to let him get close? Lilia suddenly speaks up, asking the prince, shouldn't they proceed with the meeting now? How long does he plan to keep them waiting in silence? Derek, taken aback by her tone, snaps, why is she speaking to him like that? Ferdinand interjects, telling Derek she's right, he was the one who called this meeting, yet he's been thoughtless. He also notices Lady Ashili isn't present, and asks if anyone knows where she went. Amos replies casually she went to see Dame Erin. Both Derek and Lilia flinch, blurting out at the same time, did he just call her Dame Erin? Amos, however, ignores their reaction entirely, and explains he ran into her on the way here. She said she heard Dame Erin wake up, and Lady Ashili told him to proceed with the meeting without her. Ferdinand freezes, eyes widening. She woke up? He murmurs, then exhales in relief. Thank goodness. Lilia remarks, it seems everyone has grown quite close to her. Well, it's good for everyone to get along. They need to report this absurd situation to His Majesty the Emperor. Be it the strange phenomena of a mid-level monster swarm in the northern forest, or the sword master who appeared as if on clue. But she supposes it is a fine thing to rejoice that a murderer is awake free of such worries. Amos tells her she has gone too far. She has no right to say that. She reminds him, wasn't he the one bragging not too long ago about how he was going to put Aaron in her place? And now he has changed his tune. Did he suddenly develop some camaraderie after facing one crisis together? She whirls toward Ferdinand, her frustration spilling over as she snaps, he is no different. His colleague is her, not Aaron Lysis. The words hang in the air, heavy with emotion. Almost immediately, she shuts her eyes, realizing she got too emotional. She didn't mean to say all that. She quickly apologizes, explaining she got a little carried away. What she's trying to convey is that the report isn't the only matter requiring attention. She reminds him, didn't he receive the notice from the academy? Duke Ashili is scheduled to visit Athens Academy as a special guest instructor. She adds the father of her former lover, Duke Ashili, is coming. At Aaron's room, Aaron remains overwhelmed with frustration because of the sudden visit from such an unexpected person. She cannot understand why the Duchess personally comes to see her, and the entire situation leaves her feeling strangely unsettled. The Duchess explains that she heard from Sir Aemon that Aaron willingly offered to become a decoy in order to save them all, and because of that, she wishes to express her gratitude sincerely and in person. Aaron insists that the Duchess did not need to trouble herself by coming all the way here, yet even while saying so, she cannot ignore the discomfort stirring inside her heart. The Duchess gently responds that gratitude should always be conveyed face to face, rather than through distant words. Her gaze then shifts toward Aaron's condition as she quietly asks whether there are any other places where she feels pain. She already knows that Aaron healed the wounds inflicted by the monster through divine power, but she also heard that Aaron intentionally allowed the remaining injuries to recover naturally on their own. Aaron had even changed her clothes herself afterward, making certain that no one noticed the scars left behind on her body. The Duchess understands immediately that Aaron has no desire for anyone to know about them. Although she does not fully understand the circumstances surrounding Aaron, she can clearly tell that the scars are something Aaron desperately wishes to hide. After remaining silent for a while, Aaron finally calls out to the Duchess and hesitantly asks whether she hates her. The sudden question catches the Duchess off guard, and she immediately asks why she would ever feel such a thing. Erin explains that she had once been involved with Fardeen, and because of her, the relationship between the Duchess and Fardeen ultimately fell apart. Erin naturally assumed that the Duchess would resent her because of that. The Duchess admits that the situation is complicated. She says that there are many things she cannot reveal right now, matters that still remain hidden for reasons she cannot explain. However, there is one thing she can state with absolute certainty. She does not hate Erin. No matter what happened in the past, she could never hate the person who saved her life. Those words strike Erin deeply. The mention of being called a lifesaver only fills her with guilt because she believes she has never truly managed to protect anyone properly. That is precisely why she became so flustered the moment the Duchess entered her room. Meanwhile, the Duchess cannot hide her happiness at seeing Erin awake and alive before her eyes. In her previous life, Erin was someone she never had the chance to properly meet, and now, standing before her in person, feels almost unreal. The Duchess then shyly asks whether she may address Erin by her name directly. Erin gives her permission, and that simple approval makes the Duchess visibly delighted. She happily declares that she intends to visit often from now on, and hopes they will get along well in the future. Erin cannot help smiling in response, softly agreeing to her request. After unexpectedly spending such a long amount of time together, Erin realizes that she can no longer continue missing her classes. Determined not to fall behind any further, she decides to attend the afternoon session, despite still recovering. However, the moment she arrives, she encounters yet another, completely unexpected situation. Sir Eamon approaches her directly and asks whether she should truly be out of bed already, instead of resting a little longer. The surrounding students immediately fall into shocked whispers. Everyone notices how Sir Eamon addresses Erin politely, and even uses formal language toward her. The sight alone is enough to leave the entire room bewildered, as nobody can understand why he is suddenly treating Erin with such unexpected courtesy. Even Erin herself cannot comprehend what is happening. The entire situation feels so unnatural that she internally wonders whether the sun has somehow risen in the west. Eamon notices the strange expression crossing her face and questions what exactly she is doing. Erin instinctively glances toward the sky as though genuinely checking whether the sun truly rose from the west after all, only to realize that everything looks perfectly normal, exactly the same as always. Erin immediately tells him that that is not the issue at all. What truly confuses her is the reason he is even standing here in the first place. Sir Eamon belongs among the advanced classes within the swordsmanship department, so seeing him inside the beginner class feels completely absurd to her. Without hesitation, Eamon calmly explains that he transferred himself back into the beginner class. His answer leaves Erin staring at him in complete disbelief, unable to understand what he possibly means by that. Within the swordsmanship department, students are required to complete missions personally assigned by the Emperor before they are permitted to advance to the next level. According to the Academy's strict standards, these missions are never simple. Each one is dangerous enough to risk a student's life, ranging from monster subjugation to duels against veteran knights and countless other deadly tasks. Among all of those trials, Eamon had once received one of the harshest and most difficult missions possible. After enduring immense hardship and struggle, he successfully completed it and finally earned his promotion to the advanced class. Because of that, Erin cannot understand why he would willingly place himself through such trouble all over again, merely to return to the beginner level. However, Amon simply states that he transferred because he wanted to. He tells her there is no need for her to make such a troubled expression, because through recent events, he realized just how lacking he truly was. Hearing those words causes Erin's thoughts to drift back toward the monster attack. She remembers the moment when Eamon had run off while shouting that he would bring reinforcements and begging her to stay alive until he returned. Eamon himself also recalls that moment vividly. Leaving someone behind in such a desperate situation had felt absolutely terrible. At that time, he had been painfully aware of his own weakness. Yet despite being so weak himself, he still arrogantly lectured Erin about honor and claimed she understood nothing about it. Now he realizes how foolish and prideful those words truly were. In reality, he had been the one consumed by arrogance all along. Because of that, he sincerely wishes to apologize to her. At the same time, he makes it clear that he has no intention of forcing her to speak about things she clearly does not wish to discuss. He promises that he will keep everything he witnessed a secret. However, there is still one thing he wishes to ask of her. Once she fully recovers, he hopes she will agree to duel with him. Erin quietly looks into his eyes after hearing that request. She understands that gaze immediately. It is the exact same look she has seen countless times before in the eyes of her former clients' people, desperately yearning to grow stronger. The look of someone who wishes to protect another person, someone willing to lay down their life for that purpose. As a knight herself, she cannot refuse another knight when they look at her with such determination. Because of that, Erin calmly replies that she does not mind dueling him even now. Eamon immediately questions whether she is truly certain about that, considering her current condition. Yet Erin confidently answers yes before telling him not to hold back, simply because she is still considered a patient. After all, she has no intention of going easy on him either. Hearing her response causes a faint intensity to enter Eamon's expression, as he assures her that such a thing will never happen. The scene then shifts elsewhere, as another individual arrives, while grumbling that he nearly had to camp outside waiting. After letting out a sigh, the person wonders whether it is finally time for them to go and visit Erin. Raymond walks through the area while recalling the words Dome had spoken earlier, mentioning that Erin had gone toward the training grounds. As he continues forward, his gaze suddenly lands upon a man whose presence alone dominates the surroundings. The man before him is the Duke, one of the only 3 sword masters within the Empire. Everywhere the Duke passes, piles of monster corpses are left scattered behind him, serving as undeniable proof of his overwhelming strength. He is the commander of the Empire's elite First Knight Order, a man who has reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship itself, the idol and role model admired by every knight across the Empire. Nearby, one of the men accompanying the Duke comments that most of the monsters involved in the subjugation had been high-ranked creatures. The Duke questions whether he is claiming that mere academy students fought against such monsters. The man hurriedly explains that a passing swordmaster had apparently taken care of the situation. Hearing this exchange, Raymond quietly reflects upon the matter. He knows the Duke has been assigned to investigate the monstrous subjugation, yet he never expected to encounter him personally in a place like this. The Duke coldly dismisses the explanation, stating that such careless words should not be spoken lightly. He questions whether the man even understands what it truly means to become a swordmaster. According to him, the realm of a master is not some trivial level that can be reached so casually. It is the stage where mana coats not merely the sword, but the entire body itself. Even while reprimanding his subordinate, the Duke's overwhelming aura remains impressive to witness. The man quickly lowers his head and apologizes, admitting his mistake. As the Duke resumes walking, his attention suddenly shifts toward Raymond. For a brief moment, he wonders whether his aura had overwhelmed the young man as well. Raymond is clearly not an academy student, and something about him appears vaguely familiar. The knight standing beside the Duke informs him that the young man is Sir Raymond of the Lloyd household. That explanation immediately causes the Duke to remember him. The Duke recalls that the family mark is usually only brought around by Sir Reckon, making Raymond easy to forget despite the Lloyd family valuing him rather highly. Raymond respectfully apologizes for greeting him so late and remarks that it has been quite some time since they last met. The Duke silently evaluates him. He has heard that Raymond possesses the qualifications of a high-ranking knight similar to Sir Reckon. Yet, in the Duke's eyes, Raymond's abilities remain superficial and incomplete. He is still far from reaching the level the Duke truly acknowledges. Without lingering further on the matter, the Duke turns away and asks where Erin is currently located. One of the knights immediately answers that she is at the training grounds. The Duke declares that they should head there at once. As the group leaves, Raymond remains standing for a moment, lost in thought. He knows the Duke is heading there for the investigation regarding the subjugation, but another thought weighs heavily on his mind. The Duke is infamous for caring only about individuals who possess exceptional talent with the sword. Being judged so dismissively by such a man leaves behind an unpleasant feeling within Raymond. The scene then shifts toward the training grounds, where several knights stare ahead in complete disbelief while wondering what exactly is happening before their eyes. Erin and Sir Aemon are currently engaged in a duel. The knights can hardly process the sight properly. Upon closer observation, the situation is even more shocking than they first imagined. Erin remains completely composed and calm throughout the fight, while Sir Aemon is visibly struggling to keep up with her movement. Sir Aemon lunges forward with a simple thrust, but Erin effortlessly dodges to the side. He immediately follows up with another strike in an attempt to overwhelm her. Yet the moment he attacks, she completely reverses the situation. Her movements become so swift that she strikes him before anyone can properly react. At that instant, Sir Aemon realizes something unbelievable. Erin has copied his swordsmanship style itself. After witnessing his family's sword technique only once, she has already replicated it perfectly. The realization shocks him to the core. Moments later, the duel ends with Sir Aemon's defeat. None of the surrounding knights can believe what they have just witnessed. Until now, they had assumed Erin merely survived the monster subjugation through sheer luck. Yet the scene unfolding before them completely destroys those assumptions. Sir Aemon desperately questions how she managed to copy his family's sword technique so flawlessly. Aaron calmly asks him to simply treat her the same way he normally does. At that very moment, another voice enters the scene. The Duke arrives and remarks that such talent is truly remarkable. Aaron immediately turns toward him in surprise, wondering when exactly he had arrived at the training grounds. However, her attention abruptly shifts elsewhere the moment she notices another figure standing behind him. Her eyes widen instantly. It is Raymond. Raymond quietly greets her, mentioning that it has been a long while since they last met. The moment Aaron hears his voice, her heart begins beating uncontrollably. Sir Raymond. Back within House Lloyd, during the days when she believed she had absolutely no allies, Raymond had been someone she relied upon deeply. To her, he had been like an oasis within a barren desert, a person who remained by her side when no one else did. She feels that, in the past, she probably would have trusted him until the very end. Raymond observes her carefully and mentions that he heard she had been injured during the subjugation. Seeing her standing here without serious harm brings him visible relief. Yet before anyone can react further, Aaron suddenly grabs Raymond and immediately pulls him away. The action leaves everyone present utterly shocked. Raymond watches Aaron in stunned disbelief, unable to comprehend what he is witnessing. He wonders when she became this skilled. After entering the swordsmanship department, her improvement should not have reached such a level in such a short amount of time. The thought leaves him unsettled. He begins to wonder if this is the true talent of the Corellia bloodline finally revealing itself. Yet even that explanation feels insufficient. No matter how he looks at it, Aaron is simply far too talented. Eamon quietly asks Aaron whether it would truly be more comfortable for her if he behaved the same way he used to. Aaron immediately nods and pleads for him to do exactly that. The sight leaves Raymond completely speechless. He cannot remember the last time he saw Aaron smile so naturally. It feels strange to him that she is even capable of making such expressions anymore. As he instinctively reaches out toward her, Aaron quickly pulls herself back. She awkwardly explains that she is covered in sweat and probably smells unpleasant after training. Even so, she tells Eamon that it has been a long time since they last met, and that she is genuinely glad to see that he has not changed at all. Before the moment can continue, an instructor suddenly calls for everyone to gather and prepare to resume class. Aaron hurriedly tells the others that she has to return before turning back toward Raymond and saying that she will see him later. As she walks away, Raymond lowers his gaze toward his own hand. Dark thoughts quietly begin filling his mind. In his eyes, Corellia had completely shattered Aaron from the very beginning, destroying both her mind and body while reshaping her according to her own desires. If Corellia's role had been to clip Aaron's wings and leave her broken, then Raymond had chosen for himself the role of the one who would save her. A memory suddenly resurfaces in his mind. There had once been a time when Aaron stood before him trembling and stuttering, while Raymond carefully wrapped bandages around her injured arm. She had thanked him repeatedly for saving her life, admitting that she never even realized the snake had approached her from behind. If he had not intervened when he did, the situation could have become truly dangerous. Raymond had smiled gently at her back as she walked away that day. However, the truth had been entirely different. Earlier that same day, he had already noticed the snake moving toward Aaron long before she ever saw it. He had watched silently and deliberately allowed the creature to bite her before finally stepping in to save her at the last possible moment. In his mind, Aaron was often painfully clueless, and he considered it fortunate that the snake had not been a venomous viper. Within the Marquis residence, Aaron had lived a life with no escape. Surrounded by endless abuse and isolation, she had become a complete outcast, despite being the young lady of the family. Crushed beneath constant mistreatment, the innocent girl knew nothing about the world, beyond the faint kindness others chose to show her. Because of that, she desperately clung to even the smallest warmth or shred of hope offered to her. Raymond remembers pulling her slightly closer and noticing just how frighteningly light she felt in his arms. He had remarked that she seemed thinner than before and warned her that she needed to eat properly. If she continued neglecting herself like this, then even after entering the swordsmanship department, she would never possess the strength required to properly wield even a wooden sword. Watching Aaron slowly crawl out of despair and grasp onto the tiny glimmer of hope he provided had once entertained him immensely. Yet now, despite everything he had done, Aaron had begun drifting away from him. That realization quietly twists inside his chest. In his mind, he decides that he simply needs to remind her exactly who her savior truly is. Later that evening, silence fills Ferdinand's office as documents regarding Aaron's performance are spread neatly across the desk. The Duke calmly studies the reports while reflecting on the astonishing display he witnessed earlier that day. Her sword paths had been precise and efficient, her movements restrained yet refined, and her timing nearly flawless as she continuously pressured her opponents without wasting unnecessary strength. The Duke cannot hide his astonishment. The last time he saw Erin as a child, she possessed absolutely no sign of talent with the sword. Back then, she appeared so frail and weak that he sometimes wondered whether she could even stand properly on her own. Now, however, she feels like an entirely different person. As he quietly loses himself in thought, the office door opens from behind. Ferdin slowly turns his head after hearing the familiar voice greeting him. The newcomer remarks that it has truly been a long time before calmly asking whether he has been doing well all this time. The Duke quietly realizes that he had become far too lost in his own thoughts. Regaining his composure, he turns his attention toward Ferdin and calmly asks whether His Highness, the Second Prince, has also been doing well lately. Ferdin lets out a faint laugh before gently reminding him that there is no need for such formalities in a setting like this. Even if he has come under the pretense of official business, this meeting itself is informal. He explains that the Duke had once been very close to his late mother and had practically watched over him ever since he was a child. Because of that, he asks him to simply speak the way he normally would. The Duke eventually nods in agreement before deciding to address the matter that has been lingering in his mind. While he had been devoting himself to the Empire by subjugating monsters in the southern mountains, Ferdin had apparently gone and become engaged to Erin, without even consulting him beforehand. Although he already heard the explanation behind it, the frustration still remains within him. According to what he learned, Ferdin had no choice but to accept the engagement because the arrangement came directly through the Emperor's command. Furthermore, the Emperor had reportedly issued an additional order afterward, leaving even less room for refusal. Even so, the Duke suddenly raises his voice in disbelief, unable to hide his irritation. To him, Ferdin is far too much of a doting father. In his eyes, the man appears willing to abandon the Empire's expectations entirely if it means choosing his daughter's happiness instead. At that moment, the Duchess abruptly cuts him off, telling him sharply that he has already said more than enough. Despite her calm appearance, there is clear displeasure in her expression. She reminds him that regardless of the situation, Erin and Ferdin's relationship has always been nothing more than a carefully arranged act, created through contract, in order to keep the political factions surrounding both sides under control. Erin had already obtained his permission beforehand, so she cannot understand why he is suddenly acting angry when he was fully aware of the circumstances from the very beginning. The Duke immediately tries to explain himself, insisting that this is not what he actually meant. He clarifies that he simply did not want the situation to appear as though Erin had been abandoned or cast aside by Ferdin. The Duchess stares at him in disbelief before asking whether he truly intends to portray Erin like some tragic heroine from a melodrama. She firmly tells him not to speak badly about Erin again because Erin is her friend. Afterward, she quietly admits that she rather likes Erin herself. Before arriving here, she had briefly seen Erin training at the training grounds, and the sight had genuinely astonished her. Erin's strength was far beyond anything she expected. The Duke slowly nods in agreement, acknowledging that Erin indeed possesses exceptional talent. Popo, however, a new thought soon enters his mind. He narrows his eyes slightly before questioning whether that overwhelming talent is the very reason Ferdin accepted the engagement with Erin so readily. Perhaps Erin had shown him her abilities beforehand, or perhaps it has something to do with Ferdin's special ability. Ferdin's special ability is a unique power inherited solely through the Lexia bloodline, the very foundation upon which the Lexia royal family has preserved its prosperity and authority for generations. To the world, it is known as the eyes that see the truth, a mysterious power capable of revealing the past of any person it gazes upon. Yet the ability is far from convenient. It does not activate according to Ferdin's wishes, nor can he direct it freely. The visions emerge unpredictably, surfacing without warning, and showing fragments of another person's history regardless of his intentions. As he speaks with the Duke, Ferdin explains that he had not witnessed anything related to the swordsmanship talent that had raised suspicion. However, he admits that he did see other things. Even so, those visions are not matters he can reveal. The refusal causes the Duke's thoughts to darken with unease. For Ferdin to withhold information even from him, the memories he witnessed must have been significant beyond measure. The Duke closes his eyes for a brief moment before shifting the discussion toward a far more dangerous matter. The Emperor, he explains, has been watching constantly for any opportunity to bring him down. Because of the ancient oath sworn by the old masters, he cannot directly interfere in royal family affairs. That restriction is likely the reason the Emperor permitted the engagement in the first place. If the girl were to make even the slightest mistake, the Emperor would undoubtedly use it as justification to accuse him of failing to control her. Fardeen calmly states that he is already aware of the situation. The Duke then questions the true nature of the recent monster subjugation incident. The rumors surrounding a swordmaster cannot be ignored, because no ordinary knight could possibly annihilate an entire horde of monsters in such a manner. Fardeen responds that even they remain uncertain about what truly occurred. By the time they attempted to assess the battlefield, the monsters had already been exterminated completely. Hearing this only deepens the Duke's curiosity. He begins considering the possibility that someone within the subjugation force itself may be hiding extraordinary power. Unfortunately, individuals who have reached a certain level of strength can no longer accurately measure one another's abilities. The Duke admits that he would very much like to meet the mysterious figure responsible. It has been a long time since he last encountered an opponent worthy enough to stir his interest. As the night grows later, the Duke decides to conclude their discussion. Yet before Fardeen departs, the Duke stops him once more and offers sincere gratitude for bringing his daughter home safely. Fardeen answers with a faint smile, explaining that the true credit belongs to Sir Aemon and Lady Erin, as they were the ones who protected her and ensured her safe return. After taking his leave, Fardeen stands alone in silence, his thoughts lingering on the Duke's earlier words regarding the Emperor's willingness to approve the engagement. The phrase continues echoing within his mind. In truth, he cannot confidently declare that Erin is truly the villainess everyone believes her to be. Several months earlier, the Empire's second prince, Fardeen, had already become a figure admired throughout the kingdom. Unlike the crown prince born from the Empress, Fardeen is the son of a concubine. Even so, his gentle disposition, refined manners, and endlessly generous nature captivate nearly everyone who meets him. People constantly praise how perfectly the title of prince suits him. His elegance, appearance, and warm demeanor make him seem as though he were born solely to embody nobility itself. Lately, however, there has been one unusual matter surrounding him: his relationship with the Saintess. The two of them have been close since childhood. From the moment a prince blessed with extraordinary abilities and a saintess chosen by divine power began appearing together, the entire empire became captivated by them. Their relationship quickly turned into the subject of endless admiration and romantic fantasy. To the public, they embody the perfect image of destined lovers, a noble prince and a holy saintess standing side by side in flawless harmony. However, the reality between them is entirely different. Whenever they are alone, the warmth and elegance displayed in public disappear almost instantly. Beneath their carefully crafted smiles lies a relationship filled with irritation, arguments, and mutual exasperation. The Saintess complains bitterly about how unbearable the situation has become. Maintaining a graceful smile under the watchful eyes of countless nobles leaves her cheeks aching, and even the smallest actions begin irritating her. She criticizes Fardeen for opening doors too slowly, telling him to move faster instead of behaving so leisurely. Fardeen immediately retaliates by pointing out that she is the one moving sluggishly in the first place. Rather than blaming others, she should first pay attention to her own pace. The two glare at each other with open annoyance, behaving far more like enemies forced into cooperation than lovers deeply in love. Yet despite their constant bickering, these two secretly formed a contract relationship several months ago and publicly announced themselves as a couple. Their decision is not born from affection, but from necessity. Within the imperial palace, political conflict continues growing more dangerous with every passing day. The emperor openly favors the first prince, the son born from the empress, while Fardeen, as the child of a concubine, remains trapped in an unstable position. Without the support of influential imperial nobles, he inevitably stands at a disadvantage against the first prince's faction. The Saintess, meanwhile, is the only daughter of the Duke. Blessed with sacred powers and inheriting her father's overwhelming talent with the sword, she possesses influence equal to the highest nobility in the empire. Unlike others, she has absolutely no interest in political authority or royal power struggles. However, she harbors deep resentment toward the emperor himself. Having known one another since childhood, nobody understands each other better than they do. Fardeen requires a powerful shield to secure his position against the imperial family, while the Saintess believes that only Fardeen possesses enough influence and capability to stand against the tyranny of the emperor and the first prince. For that reason, the two choose to enter a contractual relationship. Even so, the arrangement proves exhausting for both of them. The Saintess complains that acting graceful and holy enough to preserve her image is already tiring on its own, yet pretending to be romantically in love with someone in front of the entire empire is utterly revolting. Fardeen calmly tells her that if she truly despises it so much, he can cancel the contract immediately. His words instantly irritate her further. She questions whether he truly believes he could survive alone if their alliance ends. Fardeen admits that he cannot deny that possibility. In truth, he worries more about her safety than his own. Becoming involved with him has already placed her directly in the Emperor's line of sight, exposing her to danger. The Saintess dismisses the concern with cold indifference. People die eventually, regardless of what they do. She insists that she never entered the contract to save his life. As the Saintess of the Empire, she merely chose what she believed to be the best option for the nation itself. Her declaration causes Fardeen to smile faintly to himself. Even in moments like this, her words sound absurdly saint-like. Yet she quickly redirects the conversation back toward him, warning him that he should be worrying about himself more than her. Rumors regarding an engagement have already begun spreading through the imperial court. Not long afterward, the two attend a grand ball overflowing with nobles and influential figures from across the empire. The atmosphere shifts the moment Eren enters the ballroom. Fardeen's gaze immediately turns toward her as the rumors surrounding the proposed engagement with Lady Eren begin resurfacing in his mind once more. The grand banquet hall glows beneath the brilliance of countless chandeliers, their golden light reflecting against polished marble floors and jeweled decorations. Noble families gather in elegant groups, their voices blending into a sea of refined conversation and quiet laughter. Amidst the crowd stands Fardeen, carrying himself with a composed dignity expected of the Empire's second prince. A noble approaches him with a pleasant smile, remarking that it has been quite some time since they last saw him attending a banquet. Fardeen calmly responds that his appearances have become infrequent due to the demanding duties and responsibilities imposed upon him by the Academy. Soon, the conversation shifts toward the rumors circulating throughout noble society. Several guests quietly wonder whether the news they have heard is true, that the second prince is to become engaged to Eren of the Rithers family. The Emperor himself had previously spoken to Fardeen regarding the matter, reminding him that discussions surrounding the engagement had already begun. The Emperor had described Eren as an excellent match for him and instructed him to attend the banquet so that he could at least become acquainted with the young lady properly. As those memories linger in his mind, Fardeen stands among the nobles with visible reluctance. Although his expression remains calm, there is an unmistakable stiffness in his posture. Then, as he glances behind him, his eyes finally land upon Eren. At once, whispers spread through the hall like wildfire. The surrounding nobles exchange astonished looks, while murmurs ripple from one corner of the banquet to another. Many immediately conclude that the rumors must indeed be true. Others whisper bitterly that the second prince had always appeared to share a close relationship with the future Saintess, making the possibility of his engagement to Eren all the more shocking. Some even pity him in hushed voices, wondering how someone like Eren could possibly become his fiancé. Despite the growing tension in the hall, Fardeen quietly walks toward her. Upon reaching her side, he notices that she has barely touched the luxurious dishes arranged before her. With gentle consideration, he offers her a slice of cake, softly suggesting that she should eat something. A faint smile appears upon his face as he hands it to her. Eren stares at him in confusion, clearly caught off guard by his sudden kindness. However, the very next moment, Fardeen's expression abruptly changes. His eyes widen in alarm, and a violent cough escapes his throat. A sharp pain crashes through his head, causing his breathing to falter. Instantly, he realizes what is happening. His ability has suddenly manifested. The world around him distorts. When his vision clears, he finds himself standing inside an unfamiliar room. Confusion overtakes him as he looks around, wondering where exactly he is and to whom the room belongs. The atmosphere feels heavy and suffocating, filled with an unbearable sadness. Then he hears it, the quiet sound of someone sniffling and crying. As he turns toward the source of the sound, his eyes slowly widen in shock. Sitting there is Eren herself. Tears stream endlessly down her face as she cries in complete sorrow and despair. At that moment, realization strikes him. He is witnessing Eren's past. This room must belong to her. Yet what truly unsettles him is the depth of grief within her cries. The sight before him reminds him painfully of his own past, of the days when he himself had once broken down in exactly the same manner after being cursed. The sorrow in her expression feels far too genuine to ignore. Before he can understand anything further, his consciousness is suddenly pulled back. The distorted vision disappears, and the banquet hall returns around him once more. Fardeen regains his senses with difficulty, though a severe headache pounds relentlessly against his skull. Eren immediately notices the sudden paleness spreading across his face and asks whether he is all right. He quickly assures her that he is fine, despite the intense pain coursing through him. Internally, however, he realizes that the headache is merely the after effect of his ability. Even so, his thoughts remain consumed by what he has just witnessed. He cannot understand what exactly he saw, nor why his ability chose to manifest so suddenly at that moment. The image of Eren crying so painfully continues to linger vividly within his mind. Meanwhile, the nobles observing them from afar begin whispering amongst themselves once more. Some recall the expression that had appeared on the second prince's face only moments ago, and immediately assume that Eren must have said something unpleasant to him. Others criticize her quietly, claiming that despite the prince personally bringing her cake with such kindness, she still managed to upset him. In their eyes, Eren appears cold-hearted and cruel. None of them realize the truth behind the pale expression on Fardeen's face, nor the sorrowful vision that continues haunting his thoughts even now. Eren quietly excuses herself, explaining that she needs to fix her makeup for a moment. As Fardeen looks at her face, the image from the vision he had just witnessed resurfaces vividly within his mind. For a brief second, he sees once again the sorrowful expression she had worn while crying in that lonely room from her past. The memory causes his chest to tighten slightly, though he quickly composes himself. He thanks her for showing concern toward him, and calmly explains that she must have been startled when he suddenly became dizzy earlier. He assures her once more that he feels much better now. Eren blinks at him in confusion. Inwardly, she wonders why he is suddenly speaking so loudly and formally all at once. His strange behavior leaves her unable to understand what exactly has gotten into him. Ignoring the puzzled look on her face, Fardeen gently hands the slice of cake back toward her and tells her not to worry about him. He insists that she should at least eat something properly. Eren continues staring at him with visible bewilderment, before quietly thanking him in return. Even after accepting the cake, she still cannot comprehend the sudden shift in his attitude. The scene soon changes to Fardeen's office later that evening. The moment he enters the room, he lets out a tired sigh while loosening the tension in his shoulders. He mutters to himself that attending a banquet after such a long time is utterly exhausting. However, despite his complaints, his thoughts continue drifting back toward the events of earlier that night. More specifically, they continue returning to Eren. He leans back slightly as he recalls the countless rumors and titles attached to the daughter of the Rithers family. Society refers to her with endless cruel nicknames: the villainess of the century, the disgrace of her family, the emperor and empire's greatest embarrassment. The criticisms surrounding her are so numerous that they follow her everywhere, like an inseparable shadow. Yet despite hearing such things for years, Fardeen realizes something strange. Not once has he ever personally witnessed her causing a disturbance. At banquets, she never creates scenes nor behaves arrogantly as the rumors claim. In fact, she rarely even participates properly. Whenever she attends, she simply remains seated quietly in one corner for a reasonable amount of time before leaving, without drawing attention to herself. And tonight had been exactly the same. She had departed earlier than everyone else. His gaze lowers slightly as another detail surfaces within his thoughts. She had left a considerable amount of food untouched on her plate. Even the cake he offered had barely been touched. This makes him wonder whether she simply dislikes cake altogether. Or perhaps she is merely a light eater. The thought catches him off guard almost immediately. Fardeen suddenly frowns at himself, questioning why he is even worrying about such meaningless details in the first place. He has far greater matters to concern himself with than whether someone else eats properly. As his eyes drift toward the documents scattered across his desk, he notices the Emperor's letter resting among them once again. The words written within it are already deeply familiar to him. The Emperor had stated that discussions regarding his engagement with the daughter of the Rithers family had already begun. He had insisted that Eren was an excellent match for him and ordered him to attend the banquet so he could become acquainted with her properly. The Emperor had even gone as far as calling him a vulgar boy for constantly avoiding such social obligations. Fardeen clicks his tongue softly in annoyance, while thinking that his current problems are already troublesome enough. There is no reason for him to waste his energy worrying about someone else. However, just as he attempts to push those thoughts aside, movement outside the window suddenly catches his attention. His eyes widen slightly. Outside, beneath the dim moonlight, Eren is sitting quietly in the garden. A small cat rests comfortably beside her as she gently pats its fur with careful hands. To his complete surprise, she is softly singing to the cat as well. The calm melody drifting through the night air feels entirely different from the image society has created of her. Fardeen stares at the scene in visible confusion, unable to reconcile the quiet girl before him with the cruel villainess everyone constantly describes. People throughout the Empire regard him as perfection itself, the flawless second prince who possesses not even the slightest blemish upon his existence. To the people, he is graceful, noble, and untouchable, a prince born with every blessing one could desire. Yet behind that beautiful image lies a reality entirely different from what the world believes. From the moment he was born, he grows up beneath the shadow of hatred, The emperor often looks at him with cold disgust and declares that from head to toe, he resembles that woman completely, and that there is not a single thing about him worthy of affection. The emperor repeatedly thinks that he should never have accepted that woman as his concubine in the first place. To him, the noble blood of the imperial family flowing through the prince's veins is nothing but a waste. He even calls him a vulgar, half-blooded creature, someone unworthy of carrying the imperial lineage. His mother had once been the saintess of the Holy Kingdom, a woman who devoted herself to serving the goddess. Until the very day illness takes her life, she remains known as the beloved saint, who hears the goddess's voice and delivers divine prophecy. The emperor, fearful of her influence and power, takes her as a concubine and forces the Holy Kingdom into becoming a mere vassal state beneath the empire's authority. Even before his birth, humiliation and disgrace already surround him. He is born amidst political grief, resentment, and fear. To the emperor, who values only the purity of imperial blood, he is nothing more than a stain upon the royal lineage. The prince understands this truth better than anyone. He knows that if the emperor were ever to discover that he has inherited the special abilities belonging to the imperial family, his father would attempt to kill him without hesitation. The emperor has always wished for his death. Even his half-siblings despise him openly. Within the palace, danger lurks everywhere around him, and he lives constantly aware that he could be attacked at any moment. For someone forced to survive in such circumstances, caring about another person should be foolish beyond reason. And yet, despite knowing all of this, he continuously finds himself thinking about her. For some inexplicable reason, Eren keeps appearing within his thoughts in countless different ways. The scene then shifts toward Fardeen inside the academy classroom. Ever since yesterday, he cannot shake the strange feeling that he witnessed something he was never meant to see. His thoughts drift toward the stray cat that often wanders around the academy grounds. He remembers how thin and frail the animal looked the very first time he saw it. Back then, its bones were practically visible beneath its fur, and it appeared as though it could collapse at any moment. But now the cat looks entirely different. Even from a distance, he can tell that it has become much healthier and properly fed. The change is so noticeable that he unconsciously begins wondering whether Eren has secretly been taking care of it all this time. While he remains lost in thought, Derek suddenly approaches him after class ends. Derek immediately notices how distracted he has been acting throughout the day. To him, Fardeen's behavior appears unusually strange, especially after yesterday's banquet. Various possibilities begin crossing Derek's mind. He wonders whether something happened during the banquet, whether Fardeen perhaps argued with the young lady he is involved with, or whether the Emperor once again said something unpleasant to him. Among the prospective knights, including Derek, nobody knows the true nature of the contract between the Saintess and Fardeen. They believe the two are dating, but the detailed internal affairs of the imperial family remain hidden from them. Likewise, they do not fully understand the extent of the Emperor's treatment toward him, though they are vaguely aware that his relationship with his father is far from normal. Fardeen understands all of this clearly. Because of that, he simply brushes the matter aside and insists that nothing happened during the banquet. Derek immediately rejects Fardeen's words, unable to believe them in the slightest. In his eyes, the situation simply does not make sense. He points out that Eren herself attended the banquet as well, that very same woman who desperately chased after an engagement with him for years, and yet Fardeen is claiming that absolutely nothing happened between them. However, Fardeen calmly insists once more that truly nothing happened. At the same time, he quietly adds that perhaps Eren is not actually as terrible as the rumors surrounding her claim. He understands very well how noble society functions. A single small misunderstanding can grow larger and larger until countless exaggerations pile together like stones building an enormous castle. In aristocratic circles, gossip spreads faster than truth, and eventually fabricated stories become accepted as reality. But Derek still refuses to agree. To him, rumors lasting nearly 10 years cannot exist without reason. He argues that no genuinely decent person could continue carrying such terrible stories for so long unless there was at least some truth hidden within them. In his opinion, there must always be a reason behind such a reputation. Yet even while listening to Derek speak, Fardeen finds himself unable to fully believe those words anymore. His gaze slowly drifts toward the classroom window. Recently, he has continued witnessing unexpected sides of Eren again and again. Today alone marks the 8th time he catches sight of her secretly feeding the stray cat near the old dormitory building. Without realizing it, he has begun observing her routine: early morning, late lunch, evening, 3 times every single day without fail. The place where Eren feeds the cat lies behind his dormitory building. Since his dorm is located within the old dormitory area, students living in the newer buildings almost never come nearby. Furthermore, if someone circles around toward the back of the structure, there is practically no chance of encountering another person. In other words, as long as she moves carefully and discreetly, almost nobody would ever discover what she is doing, a secret known only to him. The realization leaves behind a strange feeling within his chest. The scene suddenly shifts as someone approaches Fardeen and informs him that a letter from the Imperial Palace has arrived. The moment he receives it and begins reading its contents, his expression changes instantly. His eyes widen. Then slowly, his hand tightens around the paper until the letter crumples violently within his grasp. Silence fills the room afterward. Fardeen quietly turns his head and looks outside the window once more. Beyond the academy grounds, the mountains remain unchanged as always, unmoving and eternal beneath the sky. Meanwhile, the suffocating repetition of his daily life continues endlessly, one identical day after another. While staring outside, a quiet thought crosses his mind. When will all of this finally end? And when the end eventually arrives, what will even remain afterward? For reasons he himself cannot understand, the image that surfaces within his thoughts at that moment is Erin. The mere sight of her lingers vaguely inside his heart. The scene then shifts toward nighttime. Erin quietly arrives at the usual spot where the stray cat waits for her. The moment she sees the animal, she immediately apologizes for arriving late today. On her way there, she nearly runs into other people several times, forcing her to take a much longer route than usual in order to avoid being seen. Still, she gently promises the cat that because she arrived late, she will remain with it much longer tonight instead. As Fardeen silently watches her from afar, he notices the soft smile upon her face, and for some reason, simply looking at that smile makes him feel as though he can breathe a little easier. The heaviness weighing upon his chest loosens ever so slightly. The scene changes once more. Night has deepened considerably, and heavy rain now pours relentlessly from the dark sky. Amidst the storm, Fardeen continues training alone. As usual, his body drenched beneath the cold rainwater. Then suddenly, he notices something unusual nearby. Someone is collapsed upon the ground, trembling violently. The moment he looks closer, he realizes that the person lying there is Erin, and at that instant, he unknowingly recalls it clearly within his mind. It was the very day she lost her smile. He does not know exactly what happened, but he is suddenly awakened by the sound of thunder. The moment he opens his eyes, his thoughts immediately drift toward the card. A terrible feeling settles inside him, and the instant he sees her with it, he runs after them without hesitation. However, by the time he reaches the outside, Erin is already gone. Even when he desperately follows the trail she leaves behind, he realizes far too late that there is nothing he can do anymore. Back in the lower quarters, Derek greets Fardeen with a calm, "Good morning." After everything that has happened, life appears to return to normal. Derek no longer keeps the habit of staring absent-mindedly out of the window, and naturally, he no longer catches sight of Lady Erin after that day. Since she belongs to an entirely different department, there is little reason for their paths to cross again unless she comes near his dormitory herself. Not long afterward, the two of them overhear several students speaking nearby. The boys mention that they have heard rumors claiming that Fardeen is supposedly going to become engaged to Erin. They laugh among themselves as they wonder whether that means he will have to separate from the saint. To them, the entire situation sounds absurdly unfortunate. Out of all people, Fardeen is apparently the one who is going to marry Erin. After all, in their eyes, she is still the murderer accused of killing Lilia's brother. At that exact moment, a book suddenly comes flying toward them. The startled boys quickly turn around, only to discover Derek standing there with a cold expression. He remarks that the conversation sounds quite interesting and asks whether they would mind including him in it as well. The instant they recognize him, both of them panic and immediately run away. Their reaction only irritates Derek further as he angrily shouts after them, demanding that they at least pick up the books they dropped behind. As he watches them flee, Derek cannot help thinking bitterly about how conniving they are. They're the same people who once praised and admired him openly, yet now they eagerly wait for every possible chance to slander him behind his back. Fardeen calmly tells Derek not to trouble himself over every rumor surrounding him, because none of it is worth his attention. Derek, however, cannot understand his indifference. He questions whether Fardeen truly feels nothing at all, and asks if the constant insults and whispers do not make him angry even in the slightest. Eventually, Fardeen asks Derek a question in return. He wonders why Derek chose to remain by his side in the first place. Lady Erin continues to suffer beneath endless, vicious rumors, while he himself still maintains the appearance of a flawless prince before the public. Yet Derek knows the truth better than anyone. What people see on the surface is never the complete reality. Within the imperial family, his reputation is nothing more than a carefully polished facade. The people he once admired and trusted the most have almost always ended up meeting misfortune because of him. Those around him are ultimately forced to make a choice, either leave him behind or remain beside him and continue suffering. Fardeen admits that he already understands this reality himself. His father's obsession is never going to end, and if things continue this way, both he and the others around him will eventually be placed in danger. Even so, Derek does not believe he needs a grand reason to follow him. If he absolutely has to name one, then he admits that Fardeen is somewhat too ambitious for his own good. His swordsmanship is hardly extraordinary, and perhaps the only thing he surpasses Derek in is academics. Yet suffering exists in every part of life regardless. Since enduring hardship is unavoidable, Derek would rather spend his life serving the person he himself chooses to follow. Those words genuinely catch Fardeen off guard. For a brief moment, he simply stares before letting out a soft laugh. He remarks that Derek truly is not in his right mind either. Derek immediately protests loudly at that statement, insisting that he is still far better than that lazy man they both know. The reason Fardeen has never openly approached Aaron until now is because he fears bringing even greater misfortune upon her. For the first time in his life, however, he finds himself feeling grateful toward his father. After all, it is his father's own actions that have ultimately made Aaron his. After their engagement, the first time they meet again is when Aaron unexpectedly transfers into the swordsmanship department. The moment Fardeen sees her, he immediately senses that something about her feels different from before. She carries herself with an entirely new air, one far colder and more distant than he remembers. That change alone stirs his curiosity, making him want to understand her better. Because of that, he approaches her first and calls out to her. Aaron responds in a composed manner, reminding him that since they are both 20 knights within the swordsmanship department, there is a proper way to address a superior. Only after saying that does she calmly remark that it has been quite a while since they last met. Back in the present, Fardeen reflects on everything he has observed about Aaron so far. Contrary to the vicious rumors surrounding her, she seems to avoid people rather than seek opportunities to harm them. The more he watches her, the more convinced he becomes that the accusations claiming she murdered Clips cannot possibly be true either. He wants to know more about her, yet Aaron keeps her guard raised so high that he finds no easy way to approach her. He begins wondering whether there is truly any place left where he can interact with her naturally. 2 months later, Aaron visits him once again. She politely thanks him for taking the time to meet with her and mentions that she heard from Lady Dad that he will soon be assigned another mission. Recently, she has been visiting his room rather frequently, and hearing her words now causes Fardeen to feel as though he has experienced this exact situation before. A strange sense of familiarity lingers in his mind as he quietly wonders if this could possibly mean what he thinks it does. Aaron then explains that it appears she will also be joining the upcoming mission. Because of that, she asks whether he would be willing to work together with her during the operation. The moment he hears those words, Fardeen's eyes widen in visible surprise. Meanwhile, Raymond secretly observes the entire exchange from a distance. Unfortunately for him, he stands too far away to hear their conversation clearly, leaving him to wonder suspiciously about what the two of them could possibly be discussing. Over the course of several days spent observing Aaron, Raymond comes to a firm conclusion. Her swordsmanship is undeniably skilled, exactly as Corelli once claimed. Because of that, it will become difficult for her to avoid injury forever. Soon enough, the Emperor will issue orders for the second prince to lead a campaign against the Wolfskin tribe. Fardeen and his 20 knights will have no choice but to accompany him into battle. Even if Count Leon joins later, there will still be no true support capable of changing the outcome. In Raymond's eyes, Fardeen is destined to die there without fail. The thought fills him with anticipation. He eagerly waits for the moment the second prince finally dies. When that happens, that woman will undoubtedly blame herself for everything. She will convince herself that everything began falling apart the very moment she became engaged to him. In truth, however, their circumstances are not all that different from one another anyway. As he thinks this, Raymond scoffs inwardly at the idea of a mere passing swordmaster. He wonders mockingly whether someone with such appearances will truly be fortunate enough to survive twice. After reaching that conclusion, Raymond turns his thoughts toward the next problem, how exactly he should deal with Aaron herself. Very quickly, a plan begins forming in his mind. Under the convenient excuse of wanting to protect her, he decides that he will join the mission as well. Before they even step foot inside Wolfkin territory, he intends to create a situation where he and Aaron become isolated from everyone else. He plans to manipulate events carefully, so that she believes someone deliberately pushed her into the water. Then, at the perfect moment, he will appear as her rescuer. Afterward, he intends to begin what he calls her re-education. And if an unfortunate accident were to occur during that process, resulting in her losing the use of one arm, then that simply cannot be helped. Still, he hopes she will not resent him too deeply for it in the end. After all, in his mind, she is the one who brought all of this upon herself. As night falls, all the knights remain occupied with setting up camp and carrying out their assigned duties. In the midst of the activities, someone approaches the group and asks where they are planning to camp for the night. While the others continue their work, Derek quietly remarks that no matter how he looks at the situation, something about those two feels incredibly strange. He begins wondering what exactly appears so unusual. To anyone else, they merely resemble an engaged couple calmly sitting side by side. However, Derek cannot shake the feeling that their behavior is far stranger than it seems. He recalls that only a few days earlier they had once again departed on a journey under direct imperial orders. The mission assigned to them is the subjugation of the wolf tribe and the rescue of the refugees captured by them. The wolf tribe belongs to a demonic beast species possessing a certain degree of intelligence. They are powerful creatures with violently aggressive temperaments, making them far too difficult for ordinary knights to handle alone. Because of this, Derek had suggested that the Emperor provide additional support from one of the Empire's swordmasters, Count Leon, along with his knight order. Their group is currently traveling toward the designated meeting point in order to rendezvous with Count Leon and his forces. Even so, Derek admits that he never expected matters to develop so suddenly. Ever since their departure, he has been unable to grow accustomed to the sight of those two remaining together constantly. Throughout the entire journey, they continue moving side by side. They do not appear to exchange unnecessary words with one another, and whenever there is no official business to discuss, there should logically be no reason for them to remain together. Yet despite that, Derek feels there is an atmosphere surrounding them that is strangely difficult for anyone else to interrupt. At the same time, he thinks it is fortunate that the princess is not present to witness this situation. The princess is not participating in this particular mission, which spares everyone from additional complications. Lilia then questions the reason those two continue traveling together and comments that Derek should know the answer better than anyone else. However, Derek replies that even he does not understand it. The only thing he knows is that before they received this mission, Aaron had approached Fardeen and requested to speak with him alone about something important. Ever since that private conversation with Aaron, the two of them have remained together constantly. The mention of them being together causes Eamon to shift his gaze toward Raymond's eyes as Raymond silently watches Aaron from a distance. At that moment, Eamon remembers that Raymond is always wherever Aaron happens to be. The realization makes him think that the situation truly is strange. He then asks Karen whether Raymond is participating in this mission as Aaron's guard. Karen confirms that this is indeed the case. She explains that Fardeen personally granted permission, stating that it was acceptable as long as it was for the sake of his sister. After hearing this, Eamon asks Karen whether Sir Raymond has been guarding Aaron ever since childhood. Karen replies that whenever necessary, the two of them work together exceptionally well. However, her response only deepens Eamon's doubts. He begins questioning whether people who supposedly get along well would truly look at each other with such eyes, because the expression Raymond directs toward Aaron does not resemble the gaze of someone who merely gets along with another person. Before anyone can continue discussing the matter further, Derek suddenly calls out to the others and announces that the group is moving. At the same time, he cannot help wondering where exactly they are heading at such a late hour. Eamon immediately thinks that they should follow the two of them. However, before anyone can move, Karen quickly grabs hold of him and questions where exactly they are supposed to follow them to. She reminds him that they still need to finish setting up the camp and wonders why those two are suddenly trying to run off on their own in the middle of the night. Meanwhile, Lilia quietly watches Aaron from a distance. As she stares at her, the image of her dead brother suddenly surfaces in her mind. The memory instantly fills her with overwhelming anger, and the sight unfolding before her only makes her feel even more furious. At the same time, the scene shifts deeper into the forest, where Fardeen and Aaron continue walking together beneath the dark night sky. Aaron remains silent for a long while as countless thoughts race through her mind. She thinks about how she has practiced these words hundreds of times inside her head. From the distant past until the present moment, she has constantly prepared herself for this conversation. Back then, she could never gather the courage to say it aloud, but now she finally manages to force herself to speak. Summoning her courage, she calls out to Fardeen and tells him that she wants to break off their engagement. The sudden declaration causes Fardeen's eyes to widen in complete shock. He immediately questions what she means by breaking off the engagement and asks why she would suddenly say something like that. However, Aaron explains that he does not need to continue remaining in an engagement that was forced upon him against his will. She adds that she no longer wants it either. Fardeen then questions her further, asking that if she truly never wanted it, then why she insisted on becoming engaged to him in the first place. In response, Aaron reminds him that he already knows what kind of person her stepmother is. She explains that at the time, her decision had merely been a reckless momentary whim born from desperation. Having finally said everything she came to say, Aaron quietly states that she will leave first. However, Fardeen quickly asks her to wait for a moment. Before he can even reach out and grasp her hand, she has already turned around and walked away, leaving him standing there alone. As he watches her disappearing figure, Fardeen cannot help wondering what exactly just happened. The engagement between him and Aaron had originally been arranged because of pressure from her stepmother. Regardless of how Aaron personally felt toward him, the reality remained that because of their engagement, he had been forced to part ways with the person he truly loved. Even so, despite everything that happened, neither he nor that person had ever blamed Aaron for it. Not in the past, and not even now. Meanwhile, Aaron continues walking through the forest with heavy thoughts weighing down on her mind. In the past, out of fear of her stepmother, she had dragged Fardeen down into the same miserable situation alongside her. However, this time she believes that she should no longer continue holding on to him. As she proceeds forward, she suddenly notices Raymond nearby. The sight immediately catches her attention, making her wonder what exactly he is doing there. She questions him once again, asking why he is hiding like a rat while secretly spying on both her and Fardeen. A little while earlier, when Aaron tells Fardeen that she wants to break off the engagement, Raymond overhears the entire conversation. The moment those words leave her mouth, disbelief immediately fills his mind. He cannot understand how she can calmly say that she intends to cancel her engagement to the second prince, and he wonders if she has completely lost her mind. To him, such a matter is not something she can simply decide on her own. He thinks that she is acting recklessly and far too impulsively. However, while he is still trying to process her shocking words, another thought suddenly strikes him. Aaron had been standing there only a moment ago, yet now she has vanished without him even noticing. After Fardeen leaves the area as well, Aaron suddenly steps forward from the darkness and confronts Raymond directly. She immediately asks him what exactly he is doing there, accusing him of hiding like a rat while secretly spying on them. Now the two of them walk together through the night as Raymond remains lost in thought. He clearly remembers concealing his presence perfectly, so he cannot understand how Aaron managed to discover him so easily. At the same time, his mind keeps returning to the strange feeling he sensed earlier. In all his life, he has never once experienced anything remotely similar. For a brief moment, he wonders whether it had been killing intent, but he quickly rejects that explanation. The sensation cannot be dismissed with such a simple term. To him, it feels as though he had been standing directly before the gates of hell themselves. Raymond cannot comprehend where such an overwhelming presence could possibly have come from. He knows it cannot have been Aaron. She has only just begun learning the sword, and compared to him, her abilities should still be insignificant. Other than himself and Aaron, he cannot sense anyone else nearby either. The very fact that he was able to feel a presence of that level at all seems absurd to him. Suddenly, Aaron reminds him that he still has not answered her question. She points out that she already asked why he had been spying on her. In response, Raymond claims that she has misunderstood the situation entirely. He insists that he only followed her because he was worried after seeing her leave alone with Fardeen. Even if Fardeen is technically her fiancé, going so deep into the forest late at night could still be dangerous. Aaron immediately remarks that if he truly claims to be worried about her safety, then at this moment he himself feels far more threatening to her than anyone else. Hearing that causes Raymond to finally realize that he has unconsciously been holding his sword drawn the entire time. He quickly sheathes the weapon and apologizes for his behavior. Even after putting away his sword, Raymond continues speaking to her. He asks why she has been talking in such a grim and heavy manner ever since earlier, admitting that it honestly feels frightening to him. He wonders whether he has done something wrong. He asks if she is upset simply because he followed her, then once again explains that he only did so because he was concerned for her safety. Raymond tells Aaron that she is far too careless and far too trusting toward other people. Because of that, he constantly worries that something terrible might happen to her. Even though Fardeen is widely known for being a good man, Raymond still warns her not to trust him too easily. After all, she has only just met him recently. He reminds her that Fardeen is not someone like him, and because of that, she needs to remain careful around him at all times. Aaron says his word again as she thinks that Raymond had been like rain in the desert for her. To her, who had been withering away under constant abuse, he gave her the strength to keep living. Even just a little, she trusted him, and she was always careful to him, but in her past life, she got stabbed, as he says to her thag. The Madden told him to pass this on. Don't worry, her family will be joining her soon. She realized until the moment it had all been a lie. From the very beginning, through all the lies she has lived, she could never forget the expression on his face. At the very end, that smiling face, even though he must have been following orders, when he killed her, there had not been a shred of sorrow, not even the faintest guilt. Instead, it was a face that seemed to say he had been waiting for this moment all along, filled only with relief. She wonders why as she questioned him that, did he realize something? When a sword pierces one body, it hurts, and they don't even die right away. They rather in pain for a long time before death finally comes. Raymond thinks that this is wrong and something is really off. Aaron is showing such hostility towards him, says that they should just go back for now, it's far too late. Everyone will be worried and they should continue the rest of this talk back at camp. She looks at him for a while and then says, fine. While Raymond internally wonders that she really scared him there, Raymond never expects Aaron to say something like that to him. For a brief moment, he even wonders if she is about to strike him in the head or attack him outright. Honestly, he thinks that Corellia should lessen the harsh discipline she forces upon that girl, because over the past 2 months, Aaron has become increasingly strange in his eyes. During all the time he has spent observing her, he often feels that she has changed far too much compared to how she used to be. The gentle and docile eyes she once possessed, the same eyes that were once so easy for others to manipulate and take advantage of, are completely gone now. In their place are cold eyes filled with hostility and sharpness. Still, Raymond dismisses the matter as something insignificant. Corellia herself believes that even if Aaron continues learning swordsmanship, with her already ruined body, she will never rise beyond the level of a high-ranking knight, at best. In her opinion, even if Aaron loses a wrist or two during some accident, it would not matter much. Yet Aaron is no longer the same foolish and gullible girl who knows nothing about the world around her. Rather than being bothered by this change, Raymond secretly thinks that it may actually be better this way. To him, the more Aaron resists, the more entertaining it becomes to break her spirit. That thought alone amuses him greatly. Meanwhile, Aaron herself becomes lost in memories from the past. She cannot remember the exact date anymore, but she clearly recalls a time when she and Raymond once walked together beside the pond, just like this. Back then, she had suddenly been ambushed and pushed into the water. Raymond had immediately jumped in after her to save her, anxiously asking whether she was all right, while claiming that he should have caught the person responsible. After that incident, Aaron had spent a long time living in fear, completely convinced that someone had been trying to kill her. Because of it, her distrust toward other people only continued to grow stronger with time. But now she finally knows the truth. There had never been any hidden assailant that day. Just like now, the one who pushed her had been Raymond himself from the very beginning. Aaron directly asks him whether he truly believes she would obediently return to the way she used to be. She then asks if he remembers what he heard from her the day she confronted him again at the academy. The moment those words leave her mouth, Raymond instinctively realizes that the situation has become dangerous. However, before he can even draw his sword properly, Aaron strikes him down without hesitation. As she attacks him, she admits that she is genuinely glad he has not changed at all. To her, he remains exactly the same person he has always been. Otherwise, she might have made the mistake of giving him another chance, or even forgiving him for everything he had done. Now, poor Raymond wonders what kind of situation this has suddenly become. Originally, he had only intended to push Aaron into the water and then save her afterward, believing that such an act would humble her and correct what he considered her arrogant habits. Yet somehow, everything has spiraled far beyond his expectations. Instead of becoming helpless, Aaron now stands before him as the one in control, giving him a taste of his own cruelty. She coldly points out that throwing her into the water could never have been his only objective. She questions him relentlessly, demanding to know why the Marchioness ordered him to ensure that she could never wield a sword again. At that moment, Raymond finally realizes the true nature of the terrifying energy he sensed from her earlier. It is not simple anger or resentment. It is the overwhelming fear of someone who has already once faced death itself. He comes to understand that Aaron has been hiding her true abilities all along. The realization leaves him shaken. He cannot comprehend how she managed to conceal such skill, but he knows one thing with certainty. He must immediately find a way to calm her down. Otherwise, he is going to die. More frightening still, he knows that if this situation reaches Arden, he will suffer an even worse fate. As Aaron loosens her grip slightly, Raymond desperately convinces himself that this may still be an opportunity to win her sympathy. In a frantic attempt to save himself, he hurriedly shifts all blame onto Corellia. He claims that Corellia was the one who ordered everything from the beginning. According to him, She feared that if Aaron ever learned to wield a sword properly, she would become dangerous, and so she commanded him to make certain that Aaron could never use one again. He insists repeatedly that he had merely been obeying orders, and that he had no choice in the matter. He swears that he never came here of his own will. He reminds Aaron that she has known him for a long time, and that she understands the kind of person he is. He pleads with her to believe him, inwardly convinced that she cannot truly abandon him. In his mind, Aaron is still the tragic young lady of the Marquis household, a girl unloved throughout her entire life, someone far more familiar with yearning for affection than with actually receiving it. The more desperately she sought attention and warmth, the more people ignored and neglected her. She grew up as a lonely child who viewed even the smallest scraps of kindness as precious blessings, because those fragments of attention were the only connections she possessed with other people. However, Aaron's response completely shatters his assumptions. Calmly and mercilessly, she tells him that he is going to be torn apart by her hand. Raymond stares at her in disbelief and questions why she would still wish to harm him after he confessed that he was merely following orders. Yet Aaron reveals that from the very moment she encountered him again at the academy, this had always been her intention. She asks him what exactly he thought she came all this way with him for. She already knew every part of his pathetic scheme from the beginning. She knew he intended to push her into the water, rescue her afterward, and manipulate her emotions until she became dependent on him, convincing her that he alone truly cared for her. Panic completely overtakes Raymond. He desperately shouts that it is not true, but even as he denies it, he once again tries to place all responsibility onto Corellia. He insists that this plan too was entirely Corellia's command. According to him, she specifically ordered him to throw Aaron into the water. He frantically emphasizes that he has confessed everything honestly, begging Aaron to spare him. At this moment, he is disarmed, cornered, and utterly powerless. He claims that it is disgraceful for a knight to treat a surrendered man in such a manner. In desperation, he attempts one final manipulation, reminding her that she once believed killing another person would condemn her soul to hell. He insists that if she murders him now, she herself will inevitably fall into damnation. Aaron quietly acknowledges that once, long ago, she truly did believe in heaven and hell. Even now, some part of her still does. In her first life, during the days when she was still innocent and naive, she genuinely believed that if she lived kindly and obediently, she would one day be allowed into heaven. Through tears, she remembers how she constantly promised herself that she would become a good person, that she would listen to her mother, and that she would never hate anyone, no matter how much pain she endured. She even prayed earnestly to God, begging only for one simple wish, that she might someday meet Titi again in heaven. That innocent child, even in her final moments, tried desperately not to resent or strike back against anyone. She remembers how she once prayed to Raymond as well. Clinging pitifully to his feet, she begged him to spare her life. Even though her existence had already become a miserable hell, she still struggled to survive somehow. Yet despite all her pleading and desperation, Raymond never even pretended to listen to her cries. With that, Aaron slowly draws her sword. The blade gleams coldly beneath the dim light, as she quietly declares that she will never be able to meet Titi again. There is neither hesitation nor mercy left within her voice. In the next instant, she drives the sword straight into Raymond's body. As he gasps in horror and pain, she coldly tells him to go ahead first with her father and wait for her there. Once she is finished with everything, they will all meet again in hell. The scene then abruptly shifts. A frantic voice suddenly echoes throughout the camp, repeatedly shouting that this is bad. The man continues panicking, insisting over and over that the situation is truly terrible. Derek, startled by the commotion, questions Fardeen, asking where in heaven's name he has been all this time. He points out that Fardeen took so long to return that he had been on the verge of going out personally to search for him. However, Fardeen immediately blurts out the shocking news that Aaron has disappeared. His voice rises with panic as he loudly repeats that Aaron has vanished, causing everyone nearby to freeze in confusion. He hurriedly explains that she had been beside him only moments ago, but then she suddenly told him she would go on ahead before disappearing without leaving behind a single trace. Several other knights emerged from nearby as well, alarmed after overhearing someone mention that a person had disappeared. Fardeen anxiously explains to Derek that he already searched the surrounding area thoroughly, yet he could not find Aaron anywhere. His expression is filled with urgency, as he demands that Derek wake everyone immediately, because they need to search for Aaron at once. Derek attempts to calm him down, telling him that he is far too agitated and should think clearly. Yet Fardeen sharply raises his voice again, asking how he could possibly calm down after hearing that Aaron disappeared. At that exact moment, Aaron suddenly appears and calmly states that she is right there in the camp. The instant Fardeen sees her, relief floods his face. He quickly rushes toward her and asks when she returned. Aaron casually replies that she already told him she would go on ahead, so she simply returned directly to the camp first. Fardeen exhales heavily in relief and thanks heaven that she is safe. He admits that he thought she had gone off somewhere alone again, just like before. Aaron quietly tells him not to worry because she is not going anywhere. Meanwhile, Derek watches the interaction between the two with visible confusion written across his face. Some of the others begin wondering aloud whether they should simply return to the sauna and rest. Derek then walks over to Fardeen and points out that they all heard Aaron clearly say she would not go anywhere. Since her safety has been confirmed, there is no longer any need for panic. He proceeds to instruct the others that now that Aaron has returned safely, everyone should head back and get some proper rest. Afterward, he tells Amon and the remaining knights to handle the cleanup. As Aaron watches everything unfold before her eyes, memories from the past begin resurfacing within her mind. 15 years ago, he worried about her in exactly the same way he does now. She remembers him telling her that no matter what others said, he could never believe that Aaron killed Calyx. According to him, she was not someone capable of murdering an innocent person, at least not the Aaron he personally knew. He gently told her that if she did not wish to speak about what she was enduring, then she did not need to force herself. However, if the day ever came when she was ready in her heart to confide in someone, he promised that he would help her at any time, yet the opportunity to confide in him never came. By the time Aaron finally decided that she wanted to speak honestly, he was already no longer part of this world. As she had dealt with Raymond earlier, his cruel words still echoed in her mind. He had mocked her, claiming that she would never receive love throughout her entire life. According to him, whatever strange transformation had overtaken her now made it impossible for her to continue living as she once did, because she had become nothing more than a murderer. But Aaron simply answered that she did not care. With that, she threw Raymond's body into the lake. Even if, in the future, people point their fingers at her with merciless condemnation, even if society brands her as a villainess, she no longer fears hatred because she has already become accustomed to living beneath the weight of others' scorn. However, if there are people who threaten Fardeen and the knight standing beside him, then Aaron is fully willing to become a demon for their sake. Morning arrives, just as Aaron finishes packing her bag. Karen approaches her with visible concern and asks whether she has seen Raymond anywhere. Aaron replies that she has not. Karen explains that they are supposed to depart soon, yet Raymond is nowhere to be found. His luggage is no longer inside the tent, and even his horse has disappeared. What no one knows is that earlier during the night, Aaron secretly packs Raymond's belongings herself, places them onto his horse, and ensures that he leaves the camp. At that moment, someone else approaches and asks what is happening. Fardeen learns that Sir Raymond has vanished. Karen explains that she checked the tent personally and discovered that both his belongings and horse are gone. She wonders whether he might have returned ahead to the destination. However, Fardeen finds the situation strange because leaving without the commander's permission is far from normal. Karen admits that such behavior is indeed unusual. Fardeen then turns toward Aaron and asks whether she heard Raymond mention any urgent matter or important business. Aaron calmly answers that she barely spoke to him at all, so she knows nothing. Eamon soon joins them and says that they should simply continue onward. In his view, Raymond is a high-ranking knight, and surely nothing serious could happen to someone of his status, especially when even low-class monsters rarely appear in the area. Meanwhile, Aaron silently thinks that this outcome is for the best. Raymond's attitude and the unsettling way he looked at her had always filled her with discomfort. Aside from Raymond's disturbing behavior, she also believes that the people of House Lexus are not individuals who can easily be trusted. For someone to commit such cruelty against a noble lady's body, it could not possibly be the work of an outsider. It would have to come from within their own circle. Excluding Karen, she cannot imagine anyone else lacking either the capability or the merciless nature required for such an act. Eamon then remarks to Fardeen that if Raymond's luggage had still been present, they might suspect an accident. However, since everything is gone, Raymond most likely returned on his own accord. He also reminds him that Raymond himself emphasized how little time they have if they hope to reach the destination as scheduled. Fardeen nods and agrees that time is indeed tight. Once they leave the safe zone behind, monsters will begin appearing frequently. Although the absence of a high-ranking knight weakens their overall strength considerably, searching for a single escort would also consume valuable manpower and create further risk. He asks Karen and Aaron whether they are willing to proceed with the journey as planned. Karen answers that although he feels uncertain, he intends to follow the commander's decision. It is not that he feels no concern, But at this moment, the mission must come first. Erin also states that she has no objections. With everyone in agreement, Fardeen officially orders the group to prepare for departure and continue according to schedule. Erin initially worries that they might investigate Raymond's disappearance more deeply, but fortunately the matter passes without further complications. Not long afterward, Fardeen walks over and picks up Erin's bag, asking whether she will remain by his side again today. Erin explains that she had planned to switch places with Derek instead. However, Fardeen insists that she stay close to him, reminding her that she was the one who originally requested to remain near him throughout the mission. Erin looks at him in confusion. The first march drags on endlessly. After leaving the safety zone behind, the group repeatedly encounters monsters of all sizes. As they draw nearer to the wolf tribe's territory, fear gradually spreads among the people. To make matters even worse, the weather suddenly becomes violent. Fardeen encourages everyone to endure a little longer, because the inn is already close ahead. Despite his words, even the toughest knights cannot hide their exhaustion anymore. At last, they finally arrive at the inn. Eamon immediately comments that this is the first proper meal they have seen in 10 days, proving just how exhausted everyone truly is. Erin agrees with him completely. Every member of the expedition looks worn down and drained of energy. She then recalls that beginning tomorrow, they will travel through mountain paths and leave the horses behind. Quietly, she wonders whether everything will truly be all right. In the past, Erin never participated in the extermination campaign against the wolf tribe, so she has no understanding of what the others experienced. The only thing she knows is that Fardeen returned heavily injured afterward, and every single person who participated in that expedition avoids speaking about the events that occurred. Even if she wishes to ask, she cannot bring herself to do so. Some experiences can only be understood by those who personally survive them. Eamon notices her expression and asks whether she is all right. During the journey, she spent every available moment sparring with Philip's men. Erin recalls how they continuously claimed they would defeat her, only to be knocked down in less than a minute each time. Eamon comments that although she is undeniably strong, she is ironically weak when it comes to stamina. Because of that, she needs to take better care of herself. Erin teasingly asks whether he is worrying about her now, admitting that she never knew he possessed such a side to his personality. Eamon immediately dismisses the idea and tells her not to become accustomed to it, because this kind of concern only appears rarely. According to him, exhaustion causes people to say all kinds of unusual things. Erin laughs softly at his words. Soon afterward, Amon seriously advises her to conserve her strength. Once they enter the wolf tribe's territory, nobody knows what kind of horrors might await them there. He reflects bitterly on how this mission, from the very beginning, resembles another one of the Emperor's methods of tormenting Fardeen. Somehow, every expectation they hold always ends up proving wrong. Fardeen repeatedly receives burdens that no ordinary person could possibly endure. As Erin watches him speak, she notices the unusual seriousness in Amon's expression. Realizing that his warning is genuine, she decides to keep his advice firmly in mind. Suddenly, while distracted, she accidentally spills water onto herself. At the exact same moment, Fardeen enters the inn alongside his men. Derek loudly complains about the terrible rain outside, saying that he nearly drowned while tending to the horses. Fardeen then notices Eamon asking Erin whether she is all right yet again. Erin points out that he has asked her that question many times today already. Hearing this unexpectedly causes Fardeen to remember what Adele told him the previous day about announcing the engagement. The thought instantly worsens his mood. Meanwhile, Derek calls out to Fardeen and asks why he is spacing out, reminding him to hurry and eat so everyone can finally rest. He then turns toward Eamon and accuses him of enjoying himself alone. Eamon casually reminds Derek that nobody forced him to lose at rock, paper, scissors. Ignoring the noisy banter around him, Fardeen forces himself to suppress his pointless thoughts. Right now, his only priority is ensuring that every single person returns safely. Derek once again calls Fardeen over and tells him to come sit down and eat with them. As Fardeen prepares to sit, he suddenly realizes that Lilia is nowhere to be seen. He asks whether anyone knows where she has gone. Elsewhere, far away from the others, Lilia secretly summons a glowing magic circle while holding a single coin tightly within her hand. In a memory from the past, Lilia stands before a servant who approaches her with visible hesitation. The person first asks whether she is Lilia Calix, the younger sister of Calix. After receiving confirmation, the maid introduces herself as a servant working under the Marquis. She apologizes softly for bringing such a message during a painful time. In her hands rests a heavy pouch, and she explains that her madam instructed her to deliver it as a small token for the funeral. Inside are several gold coins, meant as compensation and condolence. However, the maid's expression darkens as she continues speaking. She explains that many people are blaming Madame for failing to stop her daughter before tragedy struck. The accusation lingers heavily in the air, and the humiliation burns itself into Lilia's memory. Back in the present, Lilia's thoughts grow colder. She remembers how casually Aaron takes lives, how she killed her brother without hesitation, and how she laughed afterward as though nothing mattered. Lilia grits her teeth in fury and silently tells herself that Aaron can continue laughing for now. Earlier that day, the maid had approached her once again and quietly suggested that if she truly wished to avenge her brother, then there was still a way to do it. Remembering those words now, Lilia fixes her gaze on Aaron and thinks that, in the end, Aaron will no longer be able to laugh. A week later, Derek announces that they have finally arrived at the agreed meeting place. The journey has exhausted everyone, and Dean remarks that they are fortunate to have reached the area on time. Because the mountain paths became too dangerous, they were forced to leave the horses behind and continue on foot through the rough terrain. Dean advises everyone to rest until the scheduled meeting begins. Night soon falls over the camp. Fardeen quietly settles himself while unease begins creeping into his thoughts. Something feels wrong. Count Leon has still not appeared. Derek eventually steps outside and points out that the appointed meeting time passed long ago. According to him, Count Leon is not the type of man to arrive late under any circumstances. Dean agrees and says that it seems Count Leon will not be coming after all. He explains that Count Leon is known for being extremely strict with rules and obligations. If the Emperor gave an order, Count Leon would obey without hesitation, even if it meant throwing himself into deadly danger unarmed. Since he accepted this mission under Imperial command, something serious must have prevented him from arriving. Derek admits that he did not expect the situation to unfold this way and asks what they should do next. Fardeen immediately states that they should return. In his opinion, the wolf tribe is far too dangerous for the small force they currently possess. Derek understands his reasoning, but firmly opposes the idea of returning empty-handed. He insists that they should at least send out a search team to scout the nearby territory. Since they already crossed into this dangerous region, they need proof that they attempted the mission seriously. Derek also warns that there may be spies from the Emperor hidden among the knights. Around them, the exhausted knights quietly complain among themselves. Many wonder why Count Leon failed to appear. They are tired from the difficult journey and only wish to sleep and return home. Derek continues explaining that if they leave now without accomplishing anything, then Fardeen will certainly suffer severe consequences. Fardeen immediately realizes what Derek is implying. Derek suspects the possibility of Imperial spies among them, and Fardeen understands perfectly well what that means. If they retreat now, his father will not only blame him, but will also hold every knight accountable for failure. After thinking carefully for a moment, Fardeen finally agrees to send out a scouting party, though he adds one important condition. Nearby, Aaron notices the two men speaking in unusually low voices. Neither she nor the others can hear clearly, but even from a distance, her exceptional hearing allows her to catch fragments of their conversation. Soon, search parties are organized into groups of 4. Their first objective is to scout the wolf tribe's territory carefully. Their second objective is to prioritize survival and avoid unnecessary risks. However, when the groups eventually return, Fardeen instantly regrets his decision. With visible shock and anger, he demands to know what happened after learning that Eamon and Lilia have been kidnapped. One of the injured knights explains that while returning from the search, they were suddenly ambushed. During the attack, Eamon and Lilia resisted fiercely and ordered the others to escape while they held the enemies back. The situation leaves everyone stunned. No one understands why the wolf tribe would specifically abduct a viscount's children. Such an incident has never happened before, because there are no viscounts within wolf tribe territory. The motive behind the kidnapping remains completely unclear. Although injured, Amon and Lilia eventually manage to return safely to the academy rather than remaining prisoners. Aaron quietly reflects on how strange the situation has become. She wonders whether she has altered too many events and changed too many factors, causing the predetermined flow of fate itself to collapse into something entirely different. Panic spreads among the group. Even under normal circumstances, confronting the wolf tribe would already be extremely difficult. Now that confusion and fear dominate everyone's thoughts, rescuing the hostages seems even more impossible. Despite this, Aaron knows with certainty that she will personally go to rescue them. At the same time, she cannot stop wondering about Fardeen. She questions whether it would be safer for him to accompany them, or whether leaving him behind would be the wiser choice. Suddenly, the sky erupts with a violent lightning strike. Aaron reacts instantly and pulls Fardeen backward just before disaster strikes, causing both of them to fall to the ground. The knights stare in confusion and alarm, wondering what is happening. Derek quickly turns toward the source of danger and immediately recognizes the approaching figures. It is the wolf tribe. One knight hurriedly reports that the warriors must have followed them while they were retreating from the search mission. Fardeen immediately shouts for everyone to form defensive positions. As chaos spreads through the camp, Eren realizes with grim frustration that the situation has become far messier than anyone anticipated. Eren looks around and quickly concludes that there are 10 wolfmen in total. None of them appear to be among the stronger ones, yet she understands that fighting them here would still be extremely dangerous. The wolfmen possess excellent hearing, and if a battle breaks out, the ones deeper within their territory will undoubtedly come rushing over to support them. Besides, most of the people are already panicking. Even if they choose to fight, casualties are unavoidable. At a time like this, retreat is the best possible option. Just then, Fardeen also calls for everyone to run. As the chaos unfolds, Eren and Fardeen stand near the center of the group. Eren realizes that somebody has to lure the wolfmen away, so the others can escape safely. Before anyone can stop her, something suddenly flies toward the wolves. A gold coin lands before them. It is Eren. She deliberately provokes the wolfmen, calling them over toward her. The gesture instantly enrages them, and the wolfmen begin charging in her direction. Eren immediately turns and runs, leading the furious creatures away from the others. Fardeen stares at her in shock and desperately calls out after her. At the same time, he orders Derek to move ahead first, while he himself continues running. Derek notices his expression, and while Fardeen runs, he remembers the promise he once made. It is a promise he absolutely must keep. Karen urgently tells Derek to take care of the wounded. He tries to move after Fardeen, but Derek firmly grabs hold of him. Karen demands that Derek let him go, because Fardeen will bring his sister back. However, Derek refuses. He reminds Karen that their top priority is protecting the wounded and the remaining knights. Earlier, Fardeen had already spoken to Derek about this possibility. He told him that they should send a search party later, but only under one condition. Fardeen insisted that he absolutely must survive. If something were to happen to him, Derek would have to take responsibility for everyone's safety. Back in the present, Derek repeats those words to Karen. Fardeen entrusted him with the safety of his comrades, and as long as he has been given that order, he intends to carry it out. Therefore, he must protect Karen as well. Having no other choice, Karen grits his teeth in frustration. On the other hand, Eren successfully deals with all the wolves pursuing her. One of the wolfmen stares at her in disbelief, unable to understand how a mere human could possess such strength. Eren prepares herself to strike down the last remaining wolfman. The creature trembles, convinced that death is only moments away. But suddenly, it realizes something strange. Why is she not attacking? Instead of finishing him off, Eren suddenly looks toward the distance. She notices someone approaching from deeper within the forest. It is Fardeen. The sight of him immediately confuses her. She wonders why he followed her here. Fortunately, it seems that he has not noticed her exact location yet. Eren then turns her attention back toward the surviving wolfman. She spares his life because she needs someone to deliver a message. The message is directed toward the chief of the wolfmen. If they so much as lay a finger on the kidnapped humans, they had better prepare themselves for what is coming next. Terrified, the wolfman flees without hesitation. Afterward, Eren turns toward Fardeen's direction. Meanwhile, Fardeen carefully studies the footprints on the ground. He realizes that the tracks lead deeper into wolfman territory. That can only mean Eren and the wolfmen went this way. He knows very well that he was never meant to come here in the first place. His mother, the saint, possessed the ability to see people's futures and hear the voice of the goddess herself. When she looked into his future, she saw countless lives resting upon his shoulders. Because of that, she told him that he must survive no matter what. She apologized to him for placing such a burden upon him, but before her death she broke the sacred rules of a saint in order to leave him with a prophecy. No matter how unbearable life becomes, he must survive somehow. Those words become the compass, guiding his entire life. They are also one of the reasons he continues enduring this hellish existence. Wolfmen are infamous for never allowing invaders to leave their territory alive. If he encounters too many of them, there is a high possibility that he will never return. He could even end up captured as a hostage, turning into a problem for the Empire itself. Even if he chases after Eren, it may not change anything at all, just like how all his struggles against fate have never changed his own life. Yet the moment he witnesses Eren drawing the wolfmen away, he feels a strange premonition deep within his heart. He becomes certain that if he does not follow her now, he will regret it forever. He slowly takes out his necklace and thinks about his mother once again. In silence, he prays that he will be able to meet Eren safely. At that exact moment, Eren suddenly calls out to him. Fardeen immediately turns around and sees her standing there. Eren then asks him why he came here. He is relieved to see that she is safe. It seems that she has somehow managed to escape from the World Tree. However, before he can say anything further, Eren firmly tells him to go back. Fardeen cannot understand her words. He questions why she is even here and where exactly she intends to go. Eren answers that there is something she absolutely must do. From those words alone, Fardeen immediately realizes the truth. She is trying to rescue Lilia and Aemon on her own. Her silence confirms his suspicion. Looking at her expression, he becomes certain that she never intended to return alive in the first place. Because of that, he tells her that they should go together. If there is something that must be done, then they can accomplish it together. He refuses to let her continue alone. Paradoxically, Eren thinks that Sir Fardeen does not know the truth. Yet despite everything, standing beside a swordmaster is probably the safest place she could be. In the end, she agrees that they should move together. However, before they continue, there is something she wishes to say first. She reminds him that he is the Empire's second prince. If danger appears, then she wants him to allow her to step forward first. Fardeen immediately answers that he understands. In reality, he has no intention of placing Eren ahead of him in any dangerous situation. Still, he knows that if he refuses outright, she may choose to leave him behind and continue alone. Once their decision is made, there is no longer any hesitation between them. Only a single path remains before them. The deeper they travel into the forest, the closer they draw to the Wolf Tribe settlement, the place where Aemon and Lady Lilia are being held captive. Eventually, while remaining hidden, Fardeen quietly suggests that they rest for a while. Recovering their strength before advancing further would be wiser. Since they are still outside the Wolf Tribe's territory, they have a brief opportunity to stop safely. As they rest, Fardeen looks toward Eren and asks why she came all the way here to rescue the two of them. Eren answers honestly that there is a debt she must repay. Afterward, she asks him the same question in return. He could have sent another knight in his place, so why did he personally come here? Fardeen explains that he simply could not stand by and watch. Not only Aemon and Lilia, but even Eren herself ended up here because of him. Until now, many people have sacrificed themselves in order to protect him, and he no longer wishes to remain idle, while others continue suffering on his behalf. At the very least, as long as he is present within the tribe's territory, Lilia and Aemon will not be killed so easily. Even if he is captured in their place, the Wolf Tribe cannot recklessly execute the Empire's second prince. His status alone carries enough weight to restrain them. Yet despite the seriousness of the situation, something about Eren continues to trouble him. Whenever he looks at her, he feels a strange sense of familiarity, as though he has forgotten something extremely important. The moment those thoughts surface, Eren becomes alarmed. She wonders whether he may have seen her past through his abilities. In truth, she herself had not known that Fardeen possessed such powers until much later in the previous timeline. Fear quietly grips her heart. If he truly saw inside her, if he witnessed the path she had walked, if he saw the tragic future where he dies because of her, then what should she do? Before her thoughts can spiral further, a sudden noise echoes nearby. Instantly, Fardeen draws his sword and positions himself protectively. However, the source of the sound soon reveals itself to be nothing more than a low-level rabbit-type beast. Being a herbivore, it poses no threat to humans. Fardeen relaxes slightly and concludes that it must have been hiding from the scouts without noticing their presence nearby. After lowering his guard, he turns back toward Eren and asks whether she is all right. He worries that he may have reacted too roughly. The two of them stand incredibly close to one another in that moment. Meanwhile, Fardeen finds himself lost in thought once more. He cannot remember exactly when it began, but after the monster subjugation, Eren often started looking at him with sorrowful eyes. As the Empire's second prince, he has spent his entire life surrounded by admiration, affection, and longing from others. Because of that, he initially accepted her gaze no differently than the countless others directed toward him. Yet over time, he realizes that Eren's eyes are completely different. They constantly draw his attention. Unable to endure his stare, Eren turns her face away and quietly apologizes. Still, Fardeen cannot understand the emotions hidden within her gaze. If someone were to ask him what exactly he sees in her eyes, he would never be able to describe it properly. The feelings buried there are simply too deep for him to comprehend. At last, he asks the question that has remained in his heart all this time. He wants to know why she wishes to break off their engagement. As he leans closer to her, he admits something he himself cannot fully explain. No matter what happens, he does not wish for their engagement to be annulled. Eren wonders if she is dreaming. Fardeen tells her that he does not wish to annul their engagement, and throughout the conversation he continues to address her as Dame. Within the Academy's swordsmanship department, students only become full knights after graduation, yet they still refer to one another as Sir or Dame as a sign of mutual respect an acknowledgement of their future status as knights. In a world where everyone looks down on her and hastily calls her simply Aaron rather than Dame, there is only one person who recognizes her properly, and that person is Fardeen. His gaze toward her remains as gentle and unwavering as it had been in her past life. Aaron cannot understand why he claims not to like her when his actions constantly make it seem as though he may harbor feelings for her instead. Before she can speak further, another loud crash echoes through the area. The two immediately turn toward the sound and witness one of the wolf tribe warriors holding a human child captive. Aaron realizes at once that the boy must be one of the refugee children captured by the wolf tribe, yet something about his face feels strangely familiar. The frightened child desperately struggles and cries for the wolf to release him, and in that instant Aaron recalls a memory from her previous life. Several years later, the empire had been invaded by the wolf tribe, and countless imperial citizens had been slaughtered. Leading the invasion from the front had been a human boy capable of wielding powerful fire magic. Rumors had spread that he had once been a refugee child captured by the wolf tribe years earlier, and Aaron now understands that those rumors had been true. However, there is one difference from the past. Back then, the child had lost his sight, yet now he can still see. The enraged wolf roars at the boy for daring to burn his hand and threatens to gouge out his eyes as punishment. The moment the wolf attempts to harm him, both Fardeen and Aaron move simultaneously. Fardeen initially plans to distract the enemies, while Aaron escapes with the child. Yet before he can even act further, Aaron has already cut down the wolf herself. More warriors rush toward them, shouting about intruders, but Aaron defeats them one after another with overwhelming skill. Watching her movements, Fardeen admits to himself that she possesses astonishing ability. He recalls her earlier declaration that if danger ever came upon them, she would stand at the front herself, and he now realizes those words had not been empty confidence. As Aaron cuts through the remaining enemies, she becomes painfully aware that she has exposed far more of her strength than intended. Although she refrains from using sword ki, Fardeen has undoubtedly realized that she does not belong among ordinary beginners. The reason she concealed her abilities for so long is because she never believed she could continue living peacefully as Aaron Corellier, while secretly trying to alter the future and save Eamon and Lilia. She knew she would eventually need to reveal some measure of skill, yet now that she has shown it directly before him, fear slowly begins to creep into her heart. Only a few months earlier, when the Duke had visited the academy to hunt monsters, he had openly praised Aaron's extraordinary talent. Even among the Empire's elite First Knights, where only the most skilled swordsmen gather, such praise was rare. At that time, Fardeen had not fully understood the Duke's words because he had never personally witnessed Aaron fight seriously before. Now, however, after seeing her swordsmanship with his own eyes, he can clearly tell that she has trained for many years. Her movements are far too refined and disciplined to belong to a novice. This realization causes him to wonder why she chose to hide her talent until now. Yet instead of questioning her immediately, he recalls the sight of her crying in the past and begins to think that she may possess circumstances and burdens unknown to everyone else. Perhaps there is a reason as valid as her pain for why she concealed her swordsmanship all this time. Choosing not to pressure her, Fardeen calmly states that their priority should be relocating the child before more members of the wolf tribe arrive. Aaron, however, becomes confused by his reaction. She wonders why he does not question her at all, and whether he may have already understood something about her through his mysterious ability. Fardeen kneels before the rescued child and carefully checks whether he is injured. The moment he reaches toward him, however, his special ability suddenly activates. Horrific memories flood into his mind as though he is witnessing the child's past directly. He sees terrified refugees screaming in fear after witnessing flames erupt from the boy's hands. People call him a monster and desperately flee, terrified they will burn alongside the others. Amid the chaos, the wolf tribe discovers the child's magical power and decides to capture him. To them, magicians are valuable slaves, and they intend to train the boy until he obeys only their commands. When the vision finally ends, Fardeen is left exhausted, his body burdened by the weight of the painful memories he has witnessed. Aaron immediately notices his condition and asks whether he is all right, but he quietly assures her that he can endure it. He explains that the more horrifying the memories are, the greater the strain his ability places upon him. After recovering slightly, he reveals that the wolf chief is specifically targeting the child, and that the wolf tribe will never abandon their pursuit of him. If they discover that the child is with them, they could use Amun, Lilia, and the refugees as hostages or threats. Because of that, Fardeen concludes that their safest option is to rescue everyone before the wolf tribe learns the truth. The greatest problem, however, is that they still do not know where the captives are being held. To his surprise, Aaron calmly states that she already knows their location. Fardeen immediately questions how she could possibly know such a thing. and Erin quietly answers that she has been seeing it continuously all this time. In truth, what she refers to is a man's mana. Fardeen has heard that once a swordsman reaches a certain level, it becomes possible to sense and locate allies across an incredibly wide radius. However, such a domain belongs only to monstrous beings who stand beyond ordinary human limits, individuals such as Swordmaster. It is not an ability that a mere trainee knight should ever possess. Because of that, he cannot stop himself from wondering whether Erin may have already reached that realm without anyone realizing it. Before he can think further, loud shouts suddenly erupt from behind them as the wolf tribe discovers their presence. The wolves roar that intruders have infiltrated the area and that the refugee child has been taken. Orders to capture them immediately echo throughout the colony. Erin and Fardeen immediately begin running deeper into the territory, while Erin explains that she will continue toward Amon according to their original plan. Since the wolf tribe has already noticed them, they must rescue the captives as quickly as possible before the entire camp becomes impossible to infiltrate. Fardeen warns her that the colony's defenses will undoubtedly have been reinforced by now, and that if they are careless, they may walk directly into a trap themselves. Before they can continue further, several wolves leap into their path and sneer that the intruders cannot proceed any farther. The warriors laugh mockingly, saying that it is fortunate the pair survived this long without being discovered, yet now they have willingly entered their own graves. However, before the wolves can even finish speaking, Erin instantly cuts them down with a single overwhelming strike. One of the remaining wolves mutters that he doubts she walked into the camp intending to be captured herself, but Erin coldly replies that she will never allow such a thing to happen. Watching her fight, Fardeen begins to feel once again that something about Erin is changing before his eyes. Yet after observing more carefully, he realizes it is not that her abilities are improving. Instead, it feels as though she is merely revealing the terrifying skill she had concealed from everyone all along. He understands that every person carries secrets from their past, and whether they choose to reveal those truths is entirely their own freedom. In the same way, whether he chooses to trust such a person is also his own decision. As they continue forward, a wolf suddenly appears from behind in an attempt to ambush Fardeen. Instinctively, he draws his sword and slashes the attacker away before it can touch him. In that moment, he realizes clearly that Erin has never once shown any intention of harming him. On the contrary, everything she has done until now has been to protect him. He does not doubt her heart or her intentions anymore. The problem lies elsewhere, in the fact that there are things he himself cannot confide in her. He feels painfully unreliable standing beside her. Suddenly, his mysterious ability awakens once more, but this time, something feels different. Another ability manifests alongside it in a way he has never experienced before, almost as though the powers are constructing themselves together. The scenery around him shifts abruptly, and he witnesses a horrifying vision of a young Erin being mercilessly beaten. Shock overtakes him as he recognizes the person striking her. It is the Marchioness herself. Fardeen cannot comprehend why Erin's own mother would treat her this way. The young Erin cries desperately, apologizing repeatedly and saying that everything is her fault while begging for the punishment to stop. Yet the Marchioness coldly declares that if Erin wishes to be a proper noble lady, then she must maintain perfect posture and an elegant expression no matter what situation she faces. She demands to know whether Erin understands, and the trembling child quickly answers yes. The Marchioness then cruelly remarks that Erin is finally beginning to make a somewhat useful expression, one that appears foolish and pathetic enough to satisfy her. Fardeen's eyes widen in horror as the vision changes once more. This time he sees Erin alone, secretly wrapping bandages around her injured hands, while desperately reminding herself that nobody must discover her weakness. She repeats her mother's teachings over and over in her mind, convincing herself that noble ladies must never reveal pain before others, because such behavior is uncultured. She forces herself to endure silently, insisting repeatedly that she is not hurting at all. However, the fragile lie eventually collapses. Erin finally admits through tears that she is in pain, that it hurts unbearably, and that she no longer knows how much longer she can continue enduring everything alone. Hidden away from everyone's sight, Erin quietly cries to herself and wonders whether her own will is simply too weak. She tries so desperately not to let anyone notice her suffering, yet carrying everything alone has become far too difficult for her. Through trembling sobs, she wonders how she is supposed to continue enduring such loneliness. Then, in the midst of her grief, she whispers sadly to Calyx that she wishes he existed in this world because she can no longer bear everything by herself. Witnessing these memories firsthand, Fardeen feels as though the ground beneath him is collapsing. The rumors surrounding Erin suddenly appear utterly false to him. The infamous villainess accused of indulging in cruelty and extravagance, the eldest daughter of the Marquis, who supposedly tormented her servants until they fled, and even murdered Lilia's older brother. If all of those accusations were true, then the heartbreaking girl standing before him now could not possibly exist. The more he sees, the more he begins to understand why Aaron refuses to reveal anything about herself to others. At that moment, the necklace his mother once gave him suddenly begins to float into the air. A strange and overwhelming shock surges through his entire body, unlike anything he has ever experienced before. Confusion overtakes him as he wonders whether the necklace itself has activated some hidden power. The surrounding space distorts unnaturally, becoming unfamiliar and strange. Then Fardeen notices another figure standing within the distorted world. The instant he recognizes the person, his eyes widen in complete shock. The figure before him is himself, but his body is horribly injured and covered in wounds. Fardeen questions what is even happening right now, where he is, and why he is there at all. In front of him stands a wounded version of himself, and he wonders if that figure is truly him. The injured Fardeen appears to say something, yet the words are too faint for him to hear clearly. He only manages to catch fragment, hearing the wounded version of himself mention Aaron, before muttering that it is unfortunate. Then the injured figure clutches the necklace around his neck and tells him not to forget. At that moment, Fardeen suddenly returns to his senses when Aaron calls out to him and asks if he is all right. He immediately replies that he is fine, realizing that he has finally returned to reality. Aaron asks whether his head is hurting and tells him not to push himself too hard, insisting that he should lie down and rest for a little while longer. Even though the situation is urgent, she says there is still enough time for him to catch his breath. As Fardeen looks at her, memories of everything he witnessed flood back into his mind, especially the sight of her crying. Without thinking, he briefly pulls her into an embrace. He does not know what he should say first. Through his ability, he had seen fragments of her past, and now he understands how painful and difficult her life must have been. He wants to comfort her, yet he cannot bring himself to speak about it aloud. Clumsy pity only humiliates the other person, while immature empathy merely drives them away. The moment he mentions her past, he knows he would only reopen her wounds. There must be a reason why Aaron chose not to reveal the entire truth. Because of that, he simply stands up and says that it is nothing, and that they should get going. He decides that he will wait until the day she chooses to speak about everything herself. The little boy then returns Fardeen's sword to him, causing him to once again recall the strange vision in which his other self mentioned Aaron. Even now, he cannot understand what it truly meant. Back in the present, Aaron tells Fardeen that she knows she can sometimes be unreasonable. She says she understands if he distrusts her or even thinks poorly of her, but her desire to save everyone is sincere. Before she can continue further, Fardeen immediately tells her that he trusts her completely. Aaron becomes visibly confused and asks if he truly trusts her. He reassures her not to worry about him and tells her to do whatever she believes is right, because he intends to help her no matter what. Meanwhile, at the Marchioness household, Amid enters the room. As the personal maid, she respectfully asks whether the madam had summoned her. The Marchioness asks if any news has arrived regarding Raymond, but the maid replies that no additional information has come other than the letter stating that he departed to subdue the wolf tribe. The maid wonders if the Marchioness is concerned that Raymond might fail, but the Marchioness calmly explains that she merely had a strange dream. In that dream, Aaron appeared before her and pointed a sword at her, while declaring that she would never possess that talent. Even so, the Marchioness dismisses it as nothing more than a meaningless dream. She confidently states that Raymond will surely deal with Aaron. Even if Raymond somehow fails, the Second Princess Task Force should have already reached the Wolf Tribe's territory by now, meaning the outcome will ultimately remain unchanged. She reflects that things would have been different if the Swordmaster, Count Leon, had joined the Second Prince from the very beginning. However, due to the sudden heavy rain that flooded the rivers and delayed the boats, his knights were unable to arrive in time. As a result, the Second Prince's forces waited endlessly for reinforcements that never came, eventually becoming exposed to the Wolf Tribe and suffering severe losses. Even Aaron, she believes, could not possibly emerge from such circumstances unharmed. Amid then reminds the Marchioness that this is not the only preparation they have made. In order to prepare for every possible outcome, additional schemes had already been set into motion. The Second Prince's reserve knights are merely innocent young people driven by a strong sense of justice, while Lilia herself is exactly the kind of person who is easily swayed by righteousness. Everything, according to their calculations, is unfolding perfectly in accordance with their plans. Elsewhere, Lilia burns with anger as she declares that she refuses to let the murderer who killed her brother continue wandering around near the Second Prince unchecked. Beside her, Amon curses in frustration while complaining that the enemy is using mana control stones to reinforce the iron bars imprisoning them. He then turns toward Lilia and asks if she truly cannot use magic at all. Irritated, she replies that she has already explained it multiple times. The stones are called mana control stones for a reason. Any magician or caster who comes near them has their mana completely suppressed, making it impossible to cast spells or cancel out the effect. To resist such suppression, one would need to be at least a 6th circle magician or a sword master, and unfortunately neither of them has reached that level. Amon bitterly remarks that reality is merciless, lamenting that he should have trained in swordsmanship until death if he had known things would turn out like this. He then wonders whether Fardeen managed to escape and whether he would actually come searching for them. Lilia quietly admits that it does sound like something Fardeen would do, since he always prioritizes others over himself. Even so, she says they should trust Derek because he would never allow Fardeen to recklessly come here. Amon comments that although Derek is usually rigid and irritating, he can still be dependable during moments like this. At that exact moment, footsteps echo through the area, and a familiar voice remarks that Derek would probably feel offended hearing such words. Both Lilia and Amon freeze in complete shock as they turn toward the entrance and see Fardeen standing there before them. Fardeen looks at the two of them and says with relief that he is glad they are both safe. Amon stares at the two of them in disbelief and demands to know how they even managed to get there when the werewolves should have completely surrounded the outside area. Erin calmly admits that there truly were a large number of werewolves outside, but she immediately turns toward Fardeen and tells him that they do not have much time left. Without wasting another moment, she walks toward the prison bars and instructs the others to step back slightly. As she slowly raises her sword, the others instinctively tense up. The aura surrounding her blade is overwhelming, so intense that it immediately makes them uneasy. One of them thinks that such power is extraordinary and desperately hopes she is not actually planning to break the bars apart. A warning is quickly shouted at her, explaining that the prison bars are reinforced with mana control stones and that only a sword master could possibly destroy something like that. To everyone's complete shock, Erin swings her sword without hesitation and shatters the prison bars instantly, the sound echoing throughout the area. She immediately tells them that they must leave at once. The two prisoners stand frozen in disbelief for a moment before finally realizing that they are truly free. As they rush out, Lilia cannot stop herself from wondering what exactly is happening. She already found it suspicious enough when she noticed the guards lying dead near the prison entrance. Yet what she is witnessing now goes far beyond ordinary explanation. Amon mutters that he knew it all along and had already suspected Erin was still hiding even more strength than she had revealed. Fardeen quickly asks Amon whether he knows where the refugees are being held since they were nowhere inside the prison. Amon explains that the refugees were originally imprisoned alongside them, but the werewolves dragged them away somewhere else midway through. Hearing that, Fardeen immediately insists that they need to rescue them as quickly as possible and wonders where they could have been taken. Erin sharply tells everyone that they should move first, because the werewolves will undoubtedly begin closing in soon. Amon agrees and tells Lilia that they should hurry and leave immediately. The group begins running together through the area, but suddenly Lilia comes to a complete stop. Amon immediately notices and calls out to her, asking what is wrong and whether she is unable to run. However, Lilia slowly raises her head and says that no matter how much she thinks about it, the entire situation feels wrong. She cannot understand why no one is questioning Erin's power. To her, it makes no sense that a mere first-year swordsmanship student could possess such monstrous strength. Fardeen tries to interrupt her, but Lilia continues speaking with growing anger and pain. She bitterly recalls how her brother's life was reduced to the value of a few gold coins. That woman had called it generous compensation for the death of a commoner, but Lilia never wanted money in the first place. All she ever wanted was for her brother to come back alive. She remembers the maid telling her that her brother had supposedly been tormented by Erin until the very end. After their parents died young, he became the only one responsible for supporting his younger sister. He endured unbearable suffering and continued working even as his body was completely destroyed because he could not afford to quit. The maid had also once told Lilia that she possessed talent in magic, and that if she nurtured that talent properly, she could one day hold anything she desired in her hands. She could become a powerful sorcerer and earn more wealth than commoners could ever dream of, and with that power, she could someday avenge her brother. All of those memories explode inside her at once as she begins shouting directly at Erin, demanding to know why she did it, and what her brother had ever done to deserve such a fate. She continues screaming through tears, accusing Eren of taking everything away from her. Now Eren has become a sword master, a blessing said to be granted only by the gods themselves. Lilia cannot understand how someone like her could possibly deserve such power, while she herself has spent every single day trapped in misery and despair. It feels unbearably unfair to her. She cries as she says that Eren took everything from her life. Throughout the entire outburst, Eren remains completely silent, and even Fardeen notices the strange quietness in her expression. Seeing Lilia break down like this, Fardeen gently tells Aemon to hold onto the child for a moment before walking toward Lilia himself. He softly tells her that she has suffered alone for such a long time and apologizes for not realizing her pain sooner. Then he asks her to truly look at Eren. Eren came there entirely alone and risked everything to save them both. He explains that he is not asking Lilia to forgive Eren immediately, but only to stop and think carefully about whether Eren was truly the person responsible for killing her brother. Suddenly, before anyone can react further, a spear is launched through the air with terrifying speed. Derek instantly recognizes the attack, realizing that the spear is aimed directly at Lilia. As Lilia stares at the incoming weapon, she wonders if this is truly how she is going to die. What she cannot understand is why Eren is desperately trying to stop it. If Lilia dies, then everything would become easier for Eren, so why would she interfere? It is almost as if Eren genuinely does not want her to die. In the next instant, Fardeen suddenly throws himself forward and takes the attack instead. The spear pierces through him violently before embedding itself deep into the rocky mountainside, blood staining the weapon as it trembles from the impact. Eren's eyes widen in complete shock at the sight before her. High above them, standing atop another mountain, a wolf warrior clicks his tongue in annoyance and remarks that it is a waste because he could have killed both of them with that single strike. In Eren's first life, there comes a day when Lilia visits her. At that time, Eren has already lost everything that once gave meaning to her existence. Her dreams have crumbled, her hopes have long since faded, and she is barely managing to cling to life itself. In complete contrast, Lilia stands before her with a future brighter than anyone could imagine, having already earned recognition across the continent as the youngest Fifth Circle magician. Yet beneath the surface of Eren's shattered state lies a darkness she has nurtured for a very long time. She has thought countless times about how she could kill Lilia, and the resentment festering within her finally erupts as she suddenly reaches forward and begins choking her. The truth, however, is that Eren has been waiting for this moment ever since the death of Sir Fardeen. After losing him, she had completely lost the will to continue living. But before his death, he had once told her to live happily, and those words remained engraved into her heart, like an unbreakable spell. Even while standing at the very edge of despair, she continues enduring solely because of those lingering words. Then, just as Lilia seems prepared to end her life, she abruptly shoves Eren away instead. Eren collapses into violent coughing, while Lilia silently turns her back and leaves without another word. From that moment onward, she never returns again. The following day, news spreads across the continent that the brilliant young Fifth Circle magician, once admired and celebrated everywhere, has taken her own life. The scene then shifts back to the present as chaos erupts around the wounded Fardeen. Everyone desperately calls for him to wake up, while Aemon urges him not to lose consciousness and continues pressing down on the wound in an attempt to stop the bleeding. Eren forces herself to remain calm, repeatedly reminding herself that he is not dead. Because of the child's sudden mana surge, the spear's speed had slowed at the final moment, preventing the strike from becoming fatal. And with Lilia's healing magic, Fardeen will survive. She convinces herself that there is no reason to panic. Yet the instant she hears one of the wolves mockingly lament that they could have killed both of them, all restraint disappears. She immediately turns back toward the battlefield and begins slaughtering the wolves one after another. Eren knows very well that in the original timeline, Fardeen suffered a devastating injury here, which is why she deliberately remained close to him this time in hopes of preventing it. Yet despite everything she did, he is still gravely wounded. As rage consumes her, she suddenly begins to understand the agony Lilia once carried within her heart. Lilia had devoted her entire life to mastering magic for the sake of her brother, only to fail in the end despite all her efforts. Eren realizes that perhaps, in that terrible moment, Lilia understood that no amount of revenge or sacrifice could ever bring her brother back, making all her suffering meaningless. That same helpless fury now burns inside Eren as she cuts down the wolves mercilessly. Although her circumstances differ from Lilia's, she is now enduring the exact same despair, trapped in a hell, where no matter how desperately one struggles, nothing can truly be changed. At that moment, another wolf suddenly steps onto the battlefield and orders the others to move aside. The instant Eren senses the energy radiating from him, her entire body stiffens. Even the other wolves instinctively recoil, as the creature releases an overwhelming aura far beyond anything normal. Eren immediately realizes that the power before her is monstrous, something so immense she cannot even properly measure it. The pearl amplifying his strength has elevated him to a level approaching that of a swordmaster. The wolf launches forward, and the clash that follows is no ordinary battle but a violent collision between beings standing at the level of superhuman. Eren desperately meets his attacks head-on, while the battlefield around them descends into complete chaos. The surrounding wolves quickly notice that their own chief has entirely lost control, and has begun attacking allies indiscriminately, forcing them to flee in terror. Aemon watches the confrontation unfold with growing horror, fully aware that this is no longer a fight ordinary people can comprehend. Yet more than anything, he worries about Eren herself. Her astonishing strength continues to surpass every expectation, but he can clearly see that her stamina is reaching its limit. Even during training, she always had to carefully manage her endurance. Now blood spills from her mouth as she coughs violently, and Aemon cries out to her in alarm. However, before anyone can react further, Eren suddenly raises her sword one final time and unleashes a devastating slash that cuts the monstrous wolf down completely. The wolf releases one final growl before his entire body suddenly stiffens like stone. In the next instant, his enormous figure crumbles lifelessly to the ground, finally perishing after the overwhelming battle. As soon as the fight ends, Eren begins to collapse from complete exhaustion, causing both Lilia and Aemon to rush toward her in alarm. Lilia immediately attempts to heal Eren, yet while channeling her magic she cannot suppress the turmoil raging within her mind. She thinks that Eren has completely lost her sanity, unable to understand why anyone would push themselves so recklessly to the brink of death for the sake of others. However, at that very moment, Eren weakly reaches out and grabs Lilia's hand, pleading for her to treat Fardeen instead of herself. Lilia is left stunned because Fardeen has already been stabilized by her healing magic. The more she watches Eren, the more confused she becomes. The Eren she once knew was nothing more than a selfish and spoiled noble girl who threw tantrums whenever life failed to go her way. Yet the person she witnessed on the battlefield is entirely different. Even so, Lilia desperately tries to convince herself not to be deceived. Eren was still the one responsible for her brother's death, and perhaps even this concern and selflessness are nothing but another act. Yet at the same time, memories of Fardeen's earlier words continue echoing in her mind, leaving her unable to decide what is true anymore. Then another realization suddenly strikes her. The Wolf Tribe chief had been carrying a black mana stone. She remembers clearly how a maid once approached her, asking whether she desired revenge for her brother badly enough. During the subjugation, she had supposedly been given a chance to take revenge on Eren by inflicting a wound that would be fatal for a swordsman, and in return she would receive a mana stone capable of vastly increasing her power. The energy released from the pearl earlier had been exactly the same as the power radiating from the wolf, making her question how such an object had ended up in his possession. Meanwhile, Aemon anxiously notices that Eren has completely lost consciousness and immediately panics, but Lilia calms him by explaining that Eren is merely suffering from severe exhaustion after pushing her body far beyond its limits. Despite saying those words, even Lilia herself no longer knows what to believe anymore. Everything surrounding Eren feels increasingly contradictory, and the truth she once thought was absolute now seems uncertain. Even so, she decides that none of those questions matter at this moment, because the only thing she must focus on right now is healing Eren. Eventually, the long and terrifying night passes, and morning finally arrives. The surviving knights begin rushing toward the battlefield in order to rescue everyone. Aemon quickly notices Derek among them, and immediately questions why he has come personally. Derek explains that he left several soldiers behind to care for the wounded, while bringing every knight still capable of moving. He then asks whether Fardeen has been seriously injured, but Aemon reassures him that Lilia has already treated his wounds. Derek further explains that he managed to locate the refugees by following the trail Fardeen left behind. According to him, the Wolf Tribe had been setting traps while dragging the refugees away, but fortunately, their numbers were manageable enough for the rescue force to save everyone without suffering casualty. He then asks about Eren and Lilia's condition, only for Aemon to reply that the entire situation is far too complicated to explain at the moment, and that they should first focus on returning safely. Far away at the Marquis estate, an entirely different atmosphere unfolds, as the Marchioness coldly remarks to Charlotte that she truly is wicked for handing such an object to the Wolf Tribe chief. Charlotte calmly replies that she merely wanted to ensure everything was handled thoroughly. After all, the Marchioness wished for Eren and the second prince to suffer devastating losses, and nothing served that purpose better than a black mana stone. It is then revealed that Charlotte herself is a black magician. A black mana stone is a special artifact refined through forbidden black magic, and although it outwardly resembles an ordinary mana stone, simply possessing one dramatically increases the power of knights and magicians alike. However, those stones carry a horrifying price. Their users gradually lose their sanity before eventually descending into uncontrollable berserk states, transforming into creatures barely distinguishable from monsters themselves. Although inhibitors exist to suppress these effects, they must be consumed regularly to remain effective. Charlotte had already predicted that the second prince would retreat the moment he learned Count Leon would not be joining the subjugation force, so she used the pearl as payment in order to create additional chaos. The wolf chief, consumed by greed for greater power, willingly accepted it, and if that greed ultimately led to his death, then Charlotte believes it was simply the natural price of ambition. She coldly reflects that power always demands its due eventually. Nearby, a man listening to the conversation questions what has become of the young magician whom Fardeen brought with him, and whether she has fully joined their side. Charlotte admits she has not yet received a definite answer, but effectively that appears to be the case. She further remarks that people driven by revenge are incredibly simple to manipulate because one only needs to fuel their hatred for them to move exactly as desired. However, the conversation abruptly shifts when the Marchioness asks whether there has still been no news regarding Raymond. Charlotte replies that no reports have arrived and speculates that perhaps he never escaped the subjugation alive. Suddenly, a knock echoes through the room as a maid arrives, carrying a message from the expedition force. Charlotte becomes slightly confused upon learning that the letter comes directly from His Highness, the Second Prince. The moment the Marchioness reads its contents, her eyes widen in shock. When Charlotte asks what happened, the Marchioness grimly reveals that the letter states Raymond deserted the expedition midway through the mission and vanished entirely, with the royal forces now asking whether he has returned to the Marquis estate. Charlotte is left speechless by the revelation that Raymond has disappeared. Meanwhile, the man seated beside them quietly remarks that their carefully constructed plans appear to be